Today, President Donald Trump was asked about what's he going to do about these activist judges. And he didn't actually say this. I want to make sure this is very clear as we get off to a good start here. He didn't actually say he wants to suspend habeas corpus, but he kind of did. He said, we may have to do something that only 3 other presidents have ever done, and I hope it doesn't go that way. And considering the conversation that's been occurring on podcasts with, say, Steve Bannon and also D.C. Drano, a.k.a. Rogan O'Hanley's question to the press secretary about suspension of habeas corpus, and then Charlie Kirk tweeting out that the president is considering suspending habeas corpus, it seems like that may be, at the very least, a big ask that Trump is trying to make. Essentially saying to these judges, if I have to, I will use Article 2, Section 9 of the Constitution and suspend habeas corpus for illegal immigrants and deport them, which would be a massive move if he did. But we got to break this down because I want to stress that Trump didn't explicitly say the words habeas corpus. I don't know what else he could be insinuating. The other big news, of course, is that the U.S. and Ukraine have signed this minerals deal. Now, this may signal a coming end to the war. Why? Because we want those minerals, and we ain't going to get them so long as Russia is shooting missiles and shooting guns. However, some are concerned that this basically means the U.S. is going to stay entrenched in this war, now with an active financial interest tied to winning it. Hopefully that won't be the case. Putin did offer up a ceasefire. We'll see if that actually plays out. And a couple other stories. We'll get the fun ones where Donald Trump said that the ABC News was fake news to this reporter's face, and it was golden. We'll talk about all that. But before we do, my friends, we got a great sponsor. It's Bearskin. Did you guys notice that I'm wearing this hoodie shell right now? It's so good. I'm super impressed. I really am. So you guys remember that we did we were sponsored by Bearskin before. It's BAERSKIN. And we actually got some sent to us to try out, and I'm incredibly impressed. So basically, this thing I'm wearing right here, this is the shell. It zips into this super thick fleece hoodie that I can't actually wear because it's way too hot. It's a tank. It's basically a 3-in-1 hoodie rain jacket combo. You can zip them together and boom, you got a waterproof system that can handle everything from cold mornings to sudden rain, whatever. The hoodie itself, it's built like a tank, but it feels like a pullover. Made with 340 grams at GSM of original bearskin fleece. It's got 10 pockets inside and outside. It's not bulky at all. It's easy to wear. It looks great. And it's still breathable when you're out working, hiking, or running errands. Honestly, these things, I'm extremely impressed. Legit. I actually am. This is awesome. Phil's even wearing one. You can unlock a 60% off deal on the Bearskin hoodie today. Here's what you do. Just text the word Tim to 36912 right now. Super easy to do. Just text TIM to the number 36912. They'll send you a link for 60% off that you can come back to later, especially if you're doing something else right now and you still want to secure that discount link. Also, Bearskin, that's very clever. That's a smart way to do it. Make sure people have access to that. Because I know a lot of people listen to this podcast are like they're driving, like, I can't get in there. But that'll make it easy for you guys. Don't forget to also head over to timcast.com. This Saturday, we're doing the Culture War live. It's going to be epic. Sold out already, and we're planning to do a bunch more, so you don't want to miss it. You can join our Discord server at timcast.com by going and clicking Join Us. Don't miss out, man. The Discord server is absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Myron Gaines.
Hey, what's up, man? Happy to be back.
Who are you? What do you do?
Myron Gaines, one half of the Fresh Fit podcast. Do political, cultural, dating commentary, all that type of stuff. Monday through Friday, Myron Gaines X on YouTube and Rumble. And the Fresh Fit podcast, of course, as usual, Monday through Friday as well, 8 p.m. all the way up until 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So
wow. Well, right on. Thanks for hanging out. We got Ian.
I want to be on one of those shows one day with all those girls.
Hey, man, let me know. You're moving out to Miami. So
yeah, I'll be down there to visit next week. So let's make something. That'd be fun as hell.
Bring you on with some girls. I think they'd love that.
That'd be so wild. Just talk about love and communication. It'd be mind-blowing.
You can see the delusion that I see every day.
That'd be so awesome. Tim, I want to shout out your daily show, your Timcast channel you had Ben Davidson on today.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
I mean, maybe we should talk about that too, because this power outage in Europe, Ben Davidson, he's a space weather guy, was basically saying at the same time the power went out, you could see the solar panels excess output. And he was saying the magnetosphere got weak, and this wasn't a solar storm. It was normal solar radiation leaking into the earth, causing this, what do they call it, atmospheric induction or something? So it's pretty nuts. But he was like, I didn't expect this stuff to start happening until the 2040s. Now the power's going out. Also happened in Puerto Rico. Do you guys know that?
No.
The entire island went out of power.
Same
Crazy
time,
stuff.
same storm, same issue.
Different storm. A week prior.
I got to say, great stuff. I'm glad you're interviewing people on that show because that was super cool to see Ben. And I want to point people to my channel on YouTube, X, Rumble. I'm going to be interviewing Richard Gage tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nice.
Yeah, he founded
Interviewed
Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. The guy is an OG when it comes to studying the Twin Towers, the collapses of the Twin Towers. He brings the receipts. So come check me out at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and I'll see you there. Billy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's a story from the Post-Millennial. They say Trump considers suspending writ of habeas corpus to combat judges blocking deportation. Now, I must admit, when we originally thinking the big story for today that we want to cover is this Ukraine peace deal. Not peace deal, but the minerals deal. But this is, should it be true, massive. Now, the thing is, Trump didn't explicitly say it, but I think it's clear what he's intending. Charlie Kirk said it. Charlie Kirk is in the know, so maybe he's just insinuating or maybe Charlie knows something, but we've been hearing this conversation bubbling up. I got to be honest, it sounds like the inner circle, Donald Trump's team, is they're putting out feelers on the suspension of habeas corpus. The president has the authority to do it under Article 2, Section 9 of the Constitution. He can, in the event of an invasion. Let me play this tape for you guys. You can hear for yourself what he said, and then we'll go through it.
You mentioned this last night in your speech in Macomb, that we're facing an unprecedented situation where there's a lot of abuses of nationwide injunctions, sort of seemingly designed to curtail your power, specifically when it comes to deporting these illegal, violent aliens that came in under the previous administration. Yeah. Have you spoken to your team about ways to mitigate this and continue to deliver for the American people on
well,
that
there
aspect?
are ways to mitigate it, and there's some very strong ways. There's one way that's been used by 3 very highly respected presidents, but we hope we don't have to go that route. But there is one way that has been used very successfully by 3 presidents, all highly respected. And hopefully we don't have to go that way. But there are ways of mitigating that. I want to thank you all very much.
There are ways. Charlie Kirk tweets, President Trump is considering suspending writ of habeas corpus for illegal aliens to combat national injunctions by activist judges designed to block deportations. President Abraham Lincoln famously issued the Presidential Proclamation 94, suspending the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War. We then have this story of Common Dreams, a progressive activist site. Absolute insanity. Right-wing activist asks if Trump will suspend habeas corpus to expel more migrants. And then, of course, appearing on Steve Bannon's War Room, Mediaite reports MAGA influencer tells Steve Bannon Trump, quote, will have no choice, end quote, but to suspend habeas corpus. And that was a week ago. I think these narratives are emerging because people who are in the inner circle are telling Trump, his advisor are telling him this, these nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional. They're not going to stop. Anything you try to do on deportation, they will circumvent. However, let me pull this up. Article 2 of the Constitution, right here, right? Executive power vested in the president. We go down to, I'm sorry, did I get, wait, where's it? Clause, section, what's that? I got the wrong one. Which article was it? Was it Article 9? I think I had the wrong article pulled up.
I'm not sure what you're looking for, so I can't help.
There's under the executive authority, the president has the authority to declare. I got to figure out which one this is. I thought I had pulled up. I pulled up the wrong one. The president has the authority during times of rebellion or invasion to suspend habeas corpus.
Yeah, you'll find it. Regarding this as an invasion, I was thinking a couple days ago, I've been thinking this for a while, even if the Biden administration had tried to defend our country against the invasion, there was like 12 million, you found it?
Wrong article.
Okay.
My bad.
Which you got
It's Article 1, Section 9.
Based.
The privilege of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
So you might think, is it an invasion if they don't have weapons? Well, technically, yes. So even if the Biden administration had defended our borders against it and only 3 million people got through instead of 12 million, we'd still have to do something about those 3 million people.
The Biden administration invited people. They didn't do anything to prevent illegal immigration. They were not defending the border. This is, to me, this is obvious, right? I know that there are a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, well, this is a problem and the president can't do this or it's unconstitutional. there was absolutely an invasion of millions and millions and millions and millions of people that the previous administration just allowed into the country. The only way you can get rid of them, and we've talked about this, you are not going to be able to have every single person go in front of the judge, and that's what the left wants. So take that option off the table. Other presidents in history have done it during unprecedented times. This is an unprecedented situation. Do it.
So I'll tell you where my mistake was. I was assuming this is under Article 2 because it relates to the president's powers because presidents did this. However, the argument that people have is that Section 9 pertains to the legislative branch. And I don't know that actually is true just because it's under Article 1, which Section 1 states legislative powers vested in Congress and largely deals with Congress. And the reason I say this is that Abraham Lincoln suspended the writ of habeas corpus unilaterally. And it was only a few years later Congress actually passed a bill basically saying, yeah, that was okay, like that he did that. So the question is going to be, can the president unilaterally do this? Well, the precedent is that he can.
Of course he can.
And this, right. And this is going to get very interesting. I don't know. I got no answers for you. We can't exist in a country where you can let in 20 million illegal immigrants and then Trump can't use standard deportation powers.
Right, because if it happens again, you just can't.
It's not even just about Trump. It's about the following administration trying to right a wrong that the previous administration did. They neglected to do their job. Joe Biden himself said you should surge the border, invited anyone that could get here into the country, and then they started shipping them throughout the country in order to change the political makeup of the several states. That's what the HHS was doing with the refugee resettlement program. These are all well documented. We talked about this. That was a real program that the HHS was doing. It's not happening anymore under Kennedy, thankfully. But the remedy for this is to get the people that are here illegally out of here. And if the requirement to put them in front of a judge, which I don't even think that that's actually a requirement anyways, but if that's the narrative that the left's going for, or that's what people want to see, just get rid of the habeas corpus for non-citizens. And this shouldn't be a blanket for all Americans. If you're in the U.S. and you're a citizen, you should, of course, you should have your the right to habeas corpus, but when it comes to, here, if people that are here illegally, just ship them out.
What about people on green cards, legal visitors?
Well, those people wouldn't be subject to deportation for being here illegally.
But if they had habeas corpus stripped, if only citizens remained with habeas corpus, what would that mean exactly for people that were here on a green card?
I think that the State Department could come up with a solution for that.
But
the state would say, okay, you're here on a green card, then okay, you can stay, because green cards are something that are at the discretion of the State Department. So,
or like a visa.
Those are also
someone's here on a visa.
Those are also at the discretion.
But so if the habeas corpus was suspended for a human in the United States, what would that mean? They have no civil rights?
No, that just means that means to deport them, they don't have to go in front of a judge.
What other rights do they lose?
This means specifically one thing. Illegal immigrants right now can be subject to expedited removal. They don't go before judges. That's just not a thing that happens. An ICE agent can see a guy and say, we have reason to believe that you're an illegal immigrant. Do you have paper? You have an ID or whatever? If the suspicion rises to probable cause, then they can detain you for longer and try and figure things out. Meaning, do they think your documents are forged? But let's say what typically happens. A guy comes in, they say, what are you doing? They say, oh, I've come here, I don't have any paperwork or whatever. Okay, expedited removal. That means we can get you out of here ASAP. You don't go before a judge. That's most of the cases. That's what Obama was doing to the tunes of millions. Suspending habeas corpus means that the people who live here, who are considered MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, that have been adjudicated as such, will not get a hearing. They will be deported right away. So the Supreme Court basically said everybody's got to get a habeas hearing. That's where, when they arrest somebody, they can go before a judge and determine whether or not it was lawful detainment or arrest. Do we have the right to hold you? But in the instance of like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, 2 courts had already adjudicated him as a member of MS-13. The only due process issue that's being questioned is he was supposed to get an interview with a USCIS agent to determine whether or not the circumstances in El Salvador had changed. They have changed, so he is safe. So it's only a technicality that he didn't get his review after the fact. The Trump administration could probably do that review and it would be over. And they could even do it from here, from the office, without interviewing the guy. Because they just be like, we review the circumstances of El Salvador. He's fine. He's safe in prison. Have fun.
So this, sorry.
No, that's it.
So this is kind of a sticky situation because I see the arguments that like Phil's making where it's like, hey, look, the Democrats created a big problem for us. We have all these people that are here illegally that, quite frankly, we don't have infrastructure to properly get them in front of immigration judges to get, some type of proper, adjudication. But at the same time, I also see the problem where you can have people where won't be able to see a judge in their case, right? Like we can look at some of the people that are being arrested by ICE for, their comments against Israel, right? The anti-Semitism laws that they push, like the girl that wrote the op-ed or Mahmoud Khalil, whatever, where they're not going to get due process. So I see both ends because there's people that need to be removed that are here illegally that, you might need the suspension of habeas corpus to kind of get things through because we don't have the immigration infrastructure to deal with it. But at the same time, you do have a good amount of people, or you do have people that do have valid cases where they need to go see an immigration judge. So it's a very difficult situation where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's tough. It really is tough in this situation because there's people that quite literally need to be removed, and honestly, they don't even get a right to a judge because they've been ordered removed by an immigration judge. And then you got other people that kind of have to go through the process and see an immigration judge.
There's no answer. There's no
clear-cut answer here because every case is different.
Well, what I mean is you've got TDA, you've got MS-13, and you have 20 million illegal immigrants that flooded the country.
Yep.
They are doing everything in their power to unconstitutionally block Trump. The problem is Trump can do nothing and then be unconstitutionally blocked, or he can declare, as Abraham Lincoln did, we're going to suspend habeas corpus for these people under the Alien Enemies Act and deport them to El Salvador. Why is he doing that? Because Venezuela will not take back their TDA members. The people from Venezuela who were released from the prisons and kicked out of the country, many of Tren de Aragua, Venezuela basically said, screw you, we won't accept your flights. So where do we deport them to? Trump cut a deal with El Salvador saying, hey, we've got criminal gang members from Venezuela. Venezuela won't take them back. El Salvador said, we'll take them, but their criminal gang members are going to jail. And Trump said, okay. Supreme Court said they got to have a habeas hearing before you do that. If he suspends this, he can deport them under the Alien Enemies Act. Just there you go.
It's a lot of freaking power for one man.
It is, but here's the problem. I do not want Trump to suspend habeas corpus. Obviously, he's not doing it for all Americans. He's doing it for illegal immigrants, meaning only after you. Okay, so these are people who are found to have already been TDA or MS-13. They are picking them up, sending them back, sending them to El Salvador or to jail. There's no hearing for this. They're not American citizens. So it is a difficult position. I do not want Trump to do that. However, the position we are in right now is Trump does nothing, and then we have MS-13 gang members, 20 million illegal immigrants. And I'm talking like at large. I mean, some argue it's 10, some argue it's 40. If Trump does nothing, it gets worse, and then we have to deal with the ramifications of that.
Like their kids.
And not only that, the immigration system is extremely cumbersome, slow. Like we're talking about people might not be able to see a judge for years. And this is why we have a lot of the problems that we have is because these immigration judges, a lot of the times, this is what happened with Biden. Basically, these illegal aliens would come in, they would get a notice to appear. Instead of an expedited removal, they get the NTA and then they kind of just go out into the wind and they don't see a judge for years. And this has been a problem in the immigration system for a while. Even when I was on a job, I knew that if I gave someone an NTA, they wouldn't see a judge for a very long time. That's why I rarely ever gave out NTAs except unless they were informants. So we have a big problem in the immigration world where we also need to reform the immigration court system as well.
And listen, I hear your concern about people that are targeted for what essentially is freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
And I understand your point when it comes to there should be no laws against criticizing Israel.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be laws against anti-Semitic speech either. I'm fully on the same page with you there.
Sure.
I will say that the people that are targeted by ICE and stuff like that, when it comes to those type of activities, they're also almost to a man anti-American and anti-Western, very frequently anti-capitalist. They're anti-American, and they want to see, the destruction of the United States, destruction of the Western way of life. So, whereas I do understand your point, and if it was just about Israel, I'd be on the same page with you. But I don't, because of the other activities that they're involved in, almost all the time, I don't have a problem with getting them out.
What's the anti-Semitism? What happened? Like some people on a visa?
Two big people were there was a bunch of students that have been basically arrested and deported by ICE because of their speech that's critical of Israel. Like one girl up in Boston, she wrote an op-ed and they went and grabbed her. And here's my thing when it comes to anti-Semitism thing. Like I used to work for ICE, so I understand how their resources are kind of spread thin when it comes to going and deporting people. I think going after college students that are legally here on F1 visas that are going to class and doing what they're supposed to do, and their criticisms of Israel, targeting them is a gross misuse and waste of resources that they could be using on going on illegal aliens. Because number one, we don't have the immigration infrastructure from the court system, and we also don't even have the resources when it comes to agents going after these guys. To waste it on people that are talking about Israel is kind of ridiculous, especially when they're legally here versus all the people that are illegally here that really need to be deported.
I'm on the same page with you. I completely agree, and that is fair. But there is the Venn diagram of people that are anti-Israel, that are also anti-America and anti-West, is almost a circle. You can't, like, if you listen to people like, and not saying that, just for an example of the attitude, right? Hassan Piker, very, very, very anti-Israel, very critical of Israel, right? Also hates America, hates capitalism.
Pro MS-13.
Yeah, pro MS-13.
Very successful capitalist, by the way.
Just every bad thing that you don't want in your country, that's Hassan. Now, I'm not saying Hassan should be sent out of the country. He's an American citizen, even if he's an anchor baby. But I used him as an example of the attitude and the opinions that tend to be of the people that are critical.
Let me respond to
Israel.
that. I think that's what sets us apart and makes us the best country in the world, is because we allow people that don't like our government, that don't like our country, to be able to exist and say it. And that's quite literally what separates us from these other countries. That's what makes us so great.
Again,
so though I disagree with their worldview and I think that they're wrong, I think us allowing them to say what they want to say for their political views separates us from everyone else and makes us great.
I'm with you, except for people that are not American citizens. Hassan, as an American citizen, fine. He can say that stuff. He's an American. He was born here. Cool. American citizens can be critical of the United States government, can be critical of our way of life. That's fine. But if you're going to come to the United States and you're going to go to school and you're going to be here as a guest, and then you're saying things like America must be destroyed, beat it.
Well, here's the thing,
it.
Here's the thing,
beat it.
Though I see your perspective, and I actually do see where you're coming from with there. The reality is this: they can burn an American flag and be fine. It's when they talk about Israel that they're getting deported. That's the problem. That's my issue. We will enforce immigration law on people that are critical of Israel instead of people that are insulting the United States.
I don't have a problem.
If they just said death to America and didn't say anything about Israel, they could stay. But if they say, I don't like Israel, or write an op-ed about it where they're not even talking about anything else besides the country of Israel, not Hamas, by the way, they're getting deported. That's my problem.
And again, that when it comes to the whether they're critical of Israel or not, I'm on the same page with you. Like, there should be no laws against anti-Semitism. There should be no laws against people that are being critical of Israel. I'm 100% on board with that.
I hate 100%. These anti-Americans just like you. I used to put them in jail. But my thing is, that's what makes our country so great. I know. But that's what makes our country so great, is that we allow them to say that they hate America, unlike where they came
better
from.
idea. Moratorium on immigration.
I mean,
I agree. 1 to 5 years, bare minimum.
5 years?
1 to 5.
I mean,
1 to 5 years, bare minimum. I've said this for a minute. No more people in for 1 to 5 years.
That's not a long time. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
And largely because
we need to reform everything, Tim. And I can go through all the weak points that we have, like the visa system, broken. People coming in here on J1s, F1s, destroying our country, overstaying their visas. We got the border, which Trump shut down for a good amount, but it's still susceptible to people coming in illegally. The marriage fraud scheme that we have, where people are literally abusing our document. It's a benefit fraud situation. We're getting beat on so many different angles when it comes to immigration.
Let me jump to the story from Fox News. Blue state judge attempts to stop Border Patrol from arresting suspected illegal immigrants without warrant. Border Patrol argues it's changed its procedures, making ruling irrelevant. This is a weird story.
Deport her to the crystals.
A California judge, I believe it's a guy, isn't it?
Oh.
A California judge, but it's funny. No, actually, it is a woman. A California judge on Tuesday demanded Border Patrol agents allow people they think are living in the U.S. illegally to stay in the country unless authorities have a warrant or reason to believe the person may flee before they can get one. U.S. District Judge Jennifer L. Thurston ruled on Tuesday that CBP agents in the Eastern District of California cannot stop illegal immigrants without reasonable suspicion or deport them via voluntary departure unless that person is explained their rights and agrees to leave, according to a report from the AP. That's right. In California, they said that if CBP finds an illegal immigrant, they have to ask them politely to leave. And if the illegal immigrant says no, they can't do anything
But
about
if they're an illegal immigrant, is that not reasonable suspicion?
Yes.
Okay, then how is she saying that?
I can talk about this in detail. Number one, she doesn't have the authority to say that because she's a district judge. So district judges and immigration judges are two different things. The district judge is overseeing a lot of times criminal cases that have nothing to do with immigration. So when it comes to immigration, as an immigration enforcement officer, and there's only a couple agencies that have Title VIII authority, it's Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, ICE enforcement removal operations, which are both under the umbrella of ICE. You got Border Patrol, and then you got Customs and Border Protection, CBP, OFO blue uniform, and then Border Patrol's green uniform, both under Border Patrol, both under Customs and Border Protection. A little confusing. And then FBI has limited Title 8, and so does CBP, Air Office of Air and Marine, AMO. Now, the reality is you can conduct something called an immigration inspection, right, where you're determining someone alienage. So if you live on the southwest border, if you're like, the Border Patrol checkpoints all over the place, and you go through, they say, of what country are you a citizen of, and you have to respond whether U.S. citizen or whatever. That's considered an immigration inspection and them determining your alienage. So an immigration officer can absolutely ask you, hey, what is your status in the United States? And if you don't want to tell them, they can actually fingerprint you and figure it out under the Department of Homeland Security Act. So this is another example of an overzealous district judge thinking they know what they're talking about. But when it comes to Title 8 authority, we can absolutely ask and determine alienage, and the judge can't say shit about that.
The issue that we've got right now is that no matter what Trump does, they're claiming it's unconstitutional, despite the fact that universal injunctions and things like this are unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Okay. I was on Piers Morgan earlier, and Cenk Uygur was on, and Shri Tenadar. They're all saying everything he's doing is unconstitutional. He's doing all these unconstitutional things, and I'm like, so are Democrats. What does this mean? What does it matter? I got to be honest. I'm sitting here as a guy who reads the news all day, every day, watching Democrats scream that Trump is doing things that are unconstitutional while they do the exact same things, and I'm just like, for what purpose are we even debating it at this point?
Yeah, and even this immigration thing, the habeas corpus is a whole other conversation. But when it comes to determining alienage or, hooking somebody up for being an illegal alien, that's 100% under the INA and Immigration Authority. A district judge has no say in that, unless it's criminal. But the thing is with immigration is a lot of these cases end up becoming administrative, which have nothing to do with the criminal court process. So, her saying this, you can go ahead and yap all you want. But at the end of the day, determining alienage is 100% within their right to do so if they're a Title 8 enforcement officer.
We're looking at this potentiality of Trump may be suspending habeas corpus, which, again, it appears under Article 1. So the argument is that it's a congressional power. A legislative power, not an executive branch.
And here's the other thing, too, I'll tell you. This is how they stop terrorists a lot of times. They're a little secret that nobody knows about. In these joint terrorism task forces, right, JTTFs that the FBI runs, HSI is one of their most important partners because a lot of the times the FBI can't gather enough evidence for actual material support of terrorism. So what they have to do a lot of the times is go the immigration route. And there's many different ways that you could go after someone, whether it's denaturalizing them if they're a U.S. citizen, getting their green card revoked for certain violations, or just getting them deported outright. That is how a lot of times these terrorist plots are thwarted, is through immigration enforcement. Why? Because immigration enforcement gives you way more latitude to get things done versus through the criminal court.
We were reading an article from Matt Taibbi the other day about whether or not we're in a soft civil war. And he was talking about how 200 security officials and diplomats had written this letter saying it's time to mobilize to defend our way of life. And I see that, and I've been thinking about the population collapse quite a bit because I've been talking about it nonstop. Everybody who listens knows. And I'm looking at the immigration thing, and I see it all together. And it's probably still surface level because I don't know everything that's going on. But it really does feel like there are two universes, two realities that are fighting. Both are completely aware of what the other represents. The Democrat side is the law is what we deem it so. These are the textualists of the Constitution. It's just whatever is written there as we interpret, as opposed to what did the founders mean. And their worldview is there's not enough people. That's a good thing because climate change is a bad thing. And you shouldn't have kids. You should get abortions. But also, we're going to open up the border and flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal immigrants, which will fundamentally alter the moral tradition and foundation of the United States. Then there's Trump. America is great. We have these structures in place. Here's what they mean. Here's what they meant. And we will use what powers we have to defend this country. The problem is both sides represent there's an end to the United States. And it's not that Trump is doing something I'll put it this way. What Trump is doing is desperately trying to pull the plane out of a tailspin and stop us from crashing. What the Democrats are doing is saying, you're already cooked. We're going to flood this country with people. Otherwise, the system crumbles anyway, and we're going to transform it into something else. It's going to be a global country for all people, multicultural with open borders. And Donald Trump is saying, keep America, America, but there's not enough people. So I bring this up because thinking about what this judge is doing, okay, it's psychotic. Like, as you're mentioning, judge can't do that.
Yeah, she doesn't even have the,
This is not the first time we've seen a judge basically say, I can say and do whatever I want. I believe it was Judge Boasberg who said that he had equal powers to the president.
Insane.
Absolutely does not. It's absolutely untrue. But they don't care. And so the issue is, whatever's going to happen, you've got two distinct worldviews that want control of this country, and they are headed for a collision course, whatever that means.
And the other thing too, right, is like, so, and we were talking about this earlier, like the problem with a lot of these liberals and these Democrats is like they're trying to paint Trump as like some crazy fascist or whatever because XYZ. Like the perfect example went down in Minnesota or Milwaukee, wherever it was, with this judge that tried to block these agents from arresting this guy that was illegally here, right? I saw every big left-wing political commentator, so this is fascism, look at this, Trump is arresting judges, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that judge broke the law. I mean, if we're going to go through it, that illegal alien that was there, and I'll go through this nice and factual so everyone understands, and I literally can debate any liberal on this because they don't know immigration law and they're stupid. It's very simple. Yeah, let's go through this because every single one of them gave this same exact talking point. He's arresting judges now. This is fascism. Okay, here are the facts. This guy was arrested back in 2013. I think Flores Ruiz is his last name. He was arrested back in 2013. He was arrested in Nogales, Arizona, right on the border. He was brought in. He got caught. Border Patrol gave him what's called an expedited removal, ER. That is good because they get deported within 2 weeks. They don't really see an immigration judge because they got caught on a load. They're not supposed to be here, inadmissible, boom. So that means he can't come to the United States. He comes back in again. He gets caught. He gets arrested for domestic violence, and he goes to see the judge. Immigration obviously is aware of this. Maybe there was a detainer put, whatever, but they know that he's here illegally and he's there. He's at the court thing. Yeah.
Was the victim a man or a woman?
I think it was his girlfriend or wife.
Okay.
Domestic violence, basically.
On Fox, they said he beat a man.
Okay.
But then a separate time, they said that there were two female witnesses there seeking justice. So
okay. I know it was a misdemeanor crime of DV, either or. So people are getting mad, right, saying, oh, well, because then what happens is this is very important. So the agents go to the courthouse and they are talking with the bailiffs. Hey, look, we're here to effectuate an arrest. This guy's coming here, etc. The guys say, okay, cool, whatever. Now they're giving a courtesy by even saying why they're there. They don't need to tell them why they're there, but they go ahead and they say there. Then they wait outside the courtroom. The defense attorney comes out, and I read this all in a criminal complaint. The defense attorney comes out, sees them. Obviously, cops look like cops. Hey, these guys are probably feds. They're here to pick this guy up. So she goes and tells the judge. Judge comes out angry, tells him, hey, what are you guys here for? The deportation officer's an idiot. He goes, oh, yeah, I'm here to pick up this guy. Do you have a judicial warrant? That's irrelevant. This guy's illegally here. He's ordered deported by a judge. He's not supposed to be here. He was expedited removed. Whatever. So she takes him to another judge's chambers, the chief judge, while she has her hearing. Luckily, the DEA agent that was there, that was a part of this arrest task force, is sitting on the bench. They didn't identify him. So he has eyes on the guy. When the guy finishes his court appearance, Flores Ruiz, the judge takes him through her chambers, which is something that you never do, right? No one goes to the judge's chambers except for agents a lot of times, her and her staff. She takes him through her chambers and then goes outside the side. Now, the DEA agent sees this and he tells the other guys, hey, just so you guys know why you guys are wasting your time in this other judge's chambers because he's trying to call his boss and stuff, why he's there, explaining himself for no reason. The guy gets an elevator with his defense attorney. They're talking to each other in Spanish. DEA agent is there listening. They don't know he's an agent. They get outside. He's telling the guys, hey, come outside. He's out. He's out. So they go out and they identify themselves. Foot chase ensues. They go and grab him. Now, here's the problem. The reason why they go to the courthouse to do this stuff is because they know it's sanitary. They know he doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a weapon. It's a safe place to effectuate the arrest. We do it all the time. I used to do it all the time, right? So when this judge purposely took them around the side, didn't let them, be there and make their lawful arrest that they were supposed to make, she obviously obstructed them. And I would argue 8 U.S.C. 3024, anyone could look this up. There's a substatute in there which, entices or enables aliens to stay in the country illegally. Now, here's the other thing. For people say, due process. He shouldn't even have been here in the fucking first place to be able to commit that domestic violence. So there is no due process for him because he was ordered removed.
There's another question for a federal, outside of immigration, in that this is a man facing criminal charges.
Yep.
Ignore immigration. Let's say a guy, an American-born guy, his name's Cletus, and he mercilessly beat his wife. Mm-hmm. And he comes into court, and his wife is there with her, mom, and they're crying, and they're like, look what he did to her. And the judge goes, I'm going to sneak you out of here. And then takes this guy accused of mercilessly beating his wife, shuffles him out the back door and says, run for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crime too.
Yeah, it is.
So outside of immigration, there should be other federal charges on this.
And the thing is, like with these guys, they're being really nice, very polite. Because I get it. You're there in a state court. You're there to conduct an arrest. You don't want to create problems. You kind of want to be able to do this later on in the future. But the judge got in the way and obviously obstructed. So 100%, she's in the wrong. She deserves to go to jail for that. And all these, Democrats are going wild because literally, dude, it's like they all gave the same talking point. Trump is a fascist. He's arresting judges now for doing their jobs. They're standing up for due process, blah, blah. But what they don't understand is that guy didn't deserve due process because he shouldn't have been here in the first place.
No.
The Democrats don't get this. They're
Hold
idiots.
on. This is the gaslighting. Okay.
I was so pissed. I was like, I saw this.
Everybody gets their due process.
Yeah.
Due process does not mean criminal trial. Due process, legally defined, is the fair treatment under the law. Illegal immigrants get fair treatment under the law.
Yep.
An ICE agent will stop them and say, I have reason to believe you're not a citizen. Can you show me some ID? If they can't, they say, okay, come with me. We're going to come and check out who you are. Turns out he's not a citizen. Expedited removal. You don't even go to a judge.
Well, here's the thing. If you got ordered expedited removal, I don't even got to do all that. I just take them. Like, and that's what I'm trying to say.
You
Like
gotta put them on a plane, though, right?
yeah. But the ICRO guys that were there, like, look, I get it. They were trying to be polite and professional, but honestly, they didn't even have to let him go to court. If it was me, if I was there and I was leading that team, I would be like, I'm just taking him. Like, this judge is being a pain. She's trying to distract us. I'm just taking him. You guys can't do anything about it.
This is the important thing here. The media, I believe, has successfully gaslit the Trump supporter base and conservatives into believing that due process means jury trial.
Oh yeah, due process might be no jury. It's just whatever the righteous legal path forward is the due process.
Exactly.
Whether that's trial or no trial.
So now I'm hearing from all these conservatives saying he shouldn't get due process. No. No, they should all get due process. What is fair to someone who illegally entered the country for us to quickly send them back?
Honestly, his due process is you're under arrest for being here illegally. That's his due process because he's already been removed. And like, again, this is why, and I don't blame people for not understanding this stuff because immigration law is very nuanced and complicated. So unless you worked in it, you're not going to know this stuff. But the reality is, like, for all these liberal talking heads, like, they don't know what they're talking about. And I could debate any of them on this. Like, the guy shouldn't even have been in the courtroom in the first place and gotten this due process that they're crying about. Shouldn't have been here, was ordered removed, got an expedited removal, cooked.
I'd argue if a dude attacked a police officer and with a gun and was threatening and going to shoot and kill the police officer, and the police officer shoots and kills the guy got his due process. That's exactly what was supposed to happen legally to the guy if he was threatening the life of a police officer.
It's not quite.
That's a form of due process.
Well, I'm gonna half agree with Ian. I understand the point he's trying to make.
Yeah.
That are you treated fairly under the law? And if you're a dude who's threatening to murder a cop and the cop, seeing a threat to his life, defends himself, you were treated fairly under the law. It's a tragedy, but you created that circumstance.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I also want to say
trial.
here too, it's very important and again, I'm speaking about this in immigration. This is why, like, when it comes to like the anti-Semitism stuff, that's a bit different because these people were legally here and they're kind of using some nuanced laws to try to justify removing them. But with these other individuals, like this guy Ruiz or whatever, like, he was literally removed and an immigration judge already deemed them as like, you have what's called a final order of deportation, which means you don't even get to like, you're cooked. Like, you get deported anytime an immigration enforcement officer encounters you. So that's kind of what it comes down to. But the problem is that since so few law enforcement actually have Title 8 authority or even understand it, they can't enforce it properly, or they try to stay away from it, which is why so many people go to places like Denver or these blue states because they won't even bother asking. And even if they know that they're illegal, they won't even try to call ICE or they won't hold detainers or any of this stuff, which is a big reason why we're in this problem in the first place, where these law enforcement agencies are scared to even touch Title 8.
We're coming up on the age of people thinking that it's okay. Because I think law doesn't mean good. You might have evil laws. The people that hid the Jews from the Nazis, for instance, might have been doing a righteous move, even though it was illegal. So you're going to see this conversation about, is it righteous to break these laws, to harbor illegal aliens? That's going to be the big conversation in the next 4 years.
It's already the conversation that's being had. There are people that are. There was I don't know if it was a senator or a congressman that was saying that it's the moral thing to do. The judge that was hiding the illegal immigrant, that he was doing something illegal, but it was the moral thing to do. They're already making those arguments.
Well, that is deeply runs through me as well, because I don't always adhere to the law. If it's an evil law, you have a moral, righteous duty to defy the law.
No, it's not a moral thing to hide someone that has come here illegally. That's immoral. Think about this though. What if the laws get changed and now it's illegal for some other thing that's like that really shouldn't be illegal? You could come up with all kinds of hypotheticals, but the fact of the matter is, the people that have come here illegally, the intent is to dilute the voting power of the existing American citizens. It is not moral to allow them to stay and harm the American people by making their votes making their vote have less power.
And there's also a very illicit industry that literally runs off of this. It's called at USC 1324. It covers human smuggling and also harboring. Like there's stash house operators all over the country that literally hold groups of illegal aliens there, and get paid a lot of money to hold them there. It's almost like it's actually more lucrative than drugs in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because you can when it comes to a child that's being sex trafficked, that child can be raped 10 times a day, as opposed to you sell whatever some coke and they'll take
human smuggling is a very lucrative business. And the thing also that I need people to understand when it comes to like illegal aliens, a lot of people say, well, they're just trying to come here and find a better life. What people don't understand is, okay, let's assume they're coming in here and they're trying to live a better life. They're still funding and helping operate an illicit multi-billion-dollar business that facilitates the illegal movement of people into the United States. That also goes into other crimes as well.
People
you can't come to the United States without funding a human smuggling organization to some degree.
People need to watch The Sound of Freedom again, like rewatch that.
Oh, that intro.
I watched it a couple weeks ago, and it is horrible. And there is far too much bad that comes with illegal immigration than to ever think that allowing them to stay is moral.
Well, I'm thinking about this girl
if you send them out.
Got deported.
That scene where Wiesel says he quotes the Bible as he's catching the predator.
Yeah.
Like, that movie was fantastic.
Well, the guy that Tim Ballard used to be an HSI agent.
Yeah, of course.
He left a long time ago. It changed a lot since he's been on the job. But he used to literally be, I think, out of our Arizona office back in the day.
When I'm going hard on the legal stuff, I just
Phoenix maybe.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's great, by the way. We interviewed him on this show.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal human being. The girl that got deported for being anti-Semitic. Now that is like they just made that illegal.
The one out of Somerville, right?
I guess it's out of Somerville.
They
passed a law like a month ago or something.
Yeah, that's
it.
crazy. That's not what they used.
What did they do?
They cited their authority under the INA to deport anyone they deemed a national security threat. That's it.
It's I think the statute that they're using, Marco Rubio is using one where any alien that allows them that makes foreign policy more difficult for them we
went over this bill because what happened was I got it wrong. I thought it was I can't remember the section numbers, 273 or something, that states that they can at any time revoke a visa, and then we actually fact checked it, and it was like 3 something of the INA that states.
I think it's a foreign policy one.
It's
under 237A of INA.
It's something like that. Yeah. The specific provision is if they pose a threat to U.S. national security.
And that's like if someone's like, I don't like the way Saudi Arabia is cutting people's hands off. They're like, well, we need Saudi Arabia to defend the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So you're a national security threat by saying that out loud.
Now that example, right? I would agree with you because they're going.
So that's not a good thing for American free speech.
Why?
Because you have the right to criticize Israel and Saudi Arabia and any of these.
Foreigners do?
Even if you're at war. I mean, technically, you're supposed to still be allowed to at war.
Yeah, there's case law that protects foreigners.
I am not ever going to be okay with allowing foreign people to come to our country to dictate by protest what we do.
Well,
just think, just think about
it is legal.
Think about
sorry, I'll let you finish. Well,
just think about how the freedom of speech is actually protected in the Constitution. It says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Congress isn't making a law. They're saying we're revoking your visa.
Because of a law that's already on the books.
No, not law. There's no law.
Hold on. We got to clarify that because the interpretation of the First Amendment extends well beyond making a law.
But that's fair enough. But what's being done is revocation of visa, and the Secretary of State can revoke for a bunch of different reasons.
But I want to say, like, I hear what you're saying. I don't care. The idea that we'd be like, by all means, come to the United States. It's a privilege to be here, not a right. Enjoy our luxurious economy and and all these wonderful things. And then you go, I am now going to protest against you. I'd say, get out of my house.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's not that they're protesting. It's because they're protesting against Israel. Like this girl, for example, that we're referring to, it was a Turkish girl. She got arrested by like 7 ICE agents, by the way, up in Somerville, Massachusetts. I think she goes to Tufts. She got arrested for writing an op-ed that was critical of Israel. She didn't mention anything about Hamas. She literally just talked about boycotts and how she doesn't like Israel and how they're killing people. And she got arrested for that. And I think that is a problem.
And the U.S.
Even though she's not a U.S. citizen.
So we had this guy, Pisco Liddy. We were debating this. And I asked him, is U.S. foreign policy aligned with Israel?
A lot of the times it is, or we try to force it to be.
It is.
For their benefit,
I mean, surface level it is.
Yeah,
okay.
for
sure. Is it a threat to our foreign policy to allow college students to come in and start proselytizing, advocating, or protesting against one of our allies in the Middle East?
It's a threat to Israel, not to us.
It's a threat to our foreign policy,
which is dictated by Israel. Which, I mean, if you want to make that
the point is simply this: we can get into the deep nuances, but that's not what matters. What matters is it's legal under the law. I understand what you're saying; it's selective enforcement, and I'm not a fan of that. Like, just because some chick wrote an article, they're saying get out. Oh, come on. There's a lot of articles written by a lot of people who are against our, like, how many people have been deported because they're critical of the war in Ukraine? They came over here on a visa and then said we shouldn't be funding or being involved. They're not getting deported. So
they're not. Yeah,
Look what happened to Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine, criticizing the Ukrainian government.
Got killed.
He got killed.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is, if somebody came into my house,
sure,
and they knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I see that you guys are having a pizza party. Can I come in?" I'd say, you know what? You pitch in for the pizza. You can have some pizza and hang out with us, but you're not one of our roommates, so just be nice. They walk in, kick their shoes off, sit down, and then look at one of my roommates in the face and say, "That guy is a disgusting piece." I'd be like, "Get out of my house. You're a guest here. You have no right to come in here and say these things."
No, I see, but here's the thing: they kind of do, though, right? And there's case law out there that allows people that are foreign nationals to have, politically protected speech. And again, she was here legally. She came here. She's a student visa. Again, I don't agree with a lot of these liberals.
We can revoke their visa for whatever reason. The INA literally,
but
the U.S. the Secretary of State has unilateral authority under the INA to revoke any visa at any time at their own discretion.
Since how long has that been going on?
17 something, I guess.
Yeah, he's using he's using the statute under 237 to deport them because it makes it harder for him to, as Secretary of State, to run foreign policy. That's like the statute they're using. And look, if that's what he wants to try to use, you can make the argument that that is completely antithetical to the First Amendment, because there is case law out there that shows that, foreign nationals, Bridges versus Wixon, if I'm not mistaken, people could look that up. Very similar case where someone who was a communist or alleged to be a communist was protected. They were a green card holder. They were protected from being deported because of their political speech. And I would argue, you can make the similarity because communism back then was what terrorism is today, which is what they're trying to use, that she was a Hamas supporter, even though she didn't mention Hamas at all in her op-ed.
Right. They've been saying that these people are aligned with Hamas. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just jumping to any conclusion.
You're critical of Israel. Say they're critical of Israel. They keep saying anti-Semitism. No, you're critical of Israel.
Yeah.
But, so I understand what you're saying about selective enforcement. I still just... You
just have an issue overall with people, whether it's anti-Semitism or whatever. Your thing is you just don't like them coming in and being able to say whatever they want to say as guests.
Well, it makes
That's
me
your
think
argument,
of the Japanese internment camps in World War II.
Let's
see your perspective.
So hold on. Let's clarify this.
Yeah, sure.
There are certain things you don't do as a guest. Right.
Sure.
So if I lived in a house with a bunch of roommates and we were arguing over the dishes and who was supposed to be doing them, well, we all live here. We all pitch in. We're all paying rent. It's our problem to deal with. If some dude showed up and then every day, he's now sleeping on the couch. Okay, I don't know. We let him crash here, and now he's causing problems. He's basically yelling about what he's getting involved in the debate and the argument. And I'm like, dude, leave. You're a guest in this place. We can deport whoever we want. I believe that we should be focused on American interests, not Ukraine's interests, not Afghanistan, not Israel, not Sudan, not Taiwan, not Pakistan or India, not Tibet, whatever. Okay? Yeah. We should secure our borders. We have to deal with this population crisis that we got. That means we need Americans to start focusing on American tradition, rebuilding our culture. And so if people come here...
But what's more American than free speech, Tim? That's my only pushback to that, where I see your perspective, but what the rule that our guest is violating is the rule that the House is built upon, which is freedom of speech. It was our First Amendment. So my thing is, though I understand your perspective, I think her exercising that right, which is what we broadcast to everyone, which makes us better than everybody else, I think that's pretty egregious.
There are rules in this country for people who are here. We extend certain rights in certain circumstances, and there are different rules for people who are guests and on visas,
Myron,
such as due process for an American citizen involves a jury trial.
Myron,
due process for a non-citizen does not often involve a jury trial. We don't go, hold on. The right to a speedy trial is in the Constitution. It is the bedrock of what it means to be American. Okay, then we're going to give every illegal immigrant a jury trial. No, we're not going to do that. If you are here to, I'll just put it this way. Okay, I don't want to be funding Israel. I don't want to be involved in that conflict. Sure. I don't want to be involved in Ukraine. My issue is someone showed up to my house and started yelling at me about what I should be doing, and I said, get the out of my house.
I think, but here's the thing. They're not even complaining about your house. They're complaining about your neighbor who you're friends with. And that's my problem. That's what Israel to just make it more analogous.
They're complaining about what we're doing with an ally. And it's not their business. And the problem is, if we don't set a precedent on that, then anytime we have an adversary, there are people in the United States who are Iranian.
But this is a slippery slope that can lead us to problems in the future, though.
We let Iranians come into this country. And imagine, you see what happens in Europe. Okay? Remember when all the Turks started rising up throughout Europe with the Turkish flags, and Erdogan said, I'm going to unleash a flood on your countries unless you do what I want? This is the problem with allowing foreign ideologies to come in and get entrenched in your country. So we can all talk about the glories of the Constitution, and I'm going to say, great. So we can flush ourselves down the toilet as foreign adversaries and interests that are opposed to ours come in and start changing the shape of our country in ways we don't like. And now, what do we have? With all due respect to Ro Khanna, I think he's a good dude. I think he's wrong. I believe that he's morally correct of his own worldview to fight for what he's fighting for as it pertains to immigration. Why? He is the children of immigrants. I believe he's an American citizen. I believe he was born here.
Well, I agree with you on immigration.
But let me tell you about Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna is, I believe his parents were immigrants and he was born here. Mm-hmm. He's a very nice guy. He's reasonable. He tries to communicate, and I can respect that. But because of where he comes from, his moral worldview is antithetical to the American moral tradition. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying that he's, doing anything criminal. I'm saying his moral worldview is correct based upon where he comes from. He says, my parents were immigrants. My parents fought hard to come to this country. I understand what they want and why they want it. I'm going to fight for those values. Well, I was born in America with multiple generations going back hundreds of years, save my grandmother who came from Korea. I have all of these family members coming hundreds of years who fought in a Revolutionary War, who fought in a Civil War, and whose moral traditions have landed with me. And so what I say is, I understand, Ro, why you want to fight for illegal immigrants, but you came to this country, your parents came here, and you are now a citizen. You have access to everything we offer you because we are nice, we are good people. But when you start advocating for non-citizens, people not from this country, this creates two worldviews that are at odds with each other, and there's no off-ramp. People in this country who are saying, if you're not a citizen, so what? You can live here. And what ends up happening? You get, whether it's whatever anyone wants to say about the Haitians, you get reports from the locals that they were eating cats. Is it wrong to eat cats? Well, people in America don't take kindly to that, but in Haiti, they do eat cat. You see, there's a cultural clash. In Dearborn, Michigan, you get reports of female genital mutilation. Well, a lot of people don't take kindly to that. You get in the Somali community in Minnesota, similar stories. So the people who are born and bred and raised in America, who are sitting beneath trees their ancestors planted, our focus on what we are going to build for this country is rooted in a long-standing American tradition. We all know the lesson of the Native Americans. The left can bring it up all they want. We get it. Colonization destroys civilizations and communities and all that stuff. We don't want that to happen to us. The simple version is this. If we prioritize the speech rights of non-citizens and people who are guests in this country, if we prioritize the rights of illegal immigrants, this country will evaporate.
I don't think you need to prioritize their rights. You just got to protect them.
No,
Yeah,
but hold on.
I agree with you on that, Tim.
Hold on.
But my thing is, she's legally here. She's making speech not even against America, rather Israel, and she's being deported for that. Like,
I get it, but
Guys,
it doesn't change.
She's threatening our trade routes in the Middle East with.
sorry, you're going to say something.
But look, we don't protect all rights for foreign people that are here. You can't buy a gun if you're not an American citizen. So the idea that we protect all rights, and the Supreme
Court
Court
as a green card holder.
Supreme
You don't have to
Court,
be a citizen.
Supreme Court has said that the Second Amendment is not a second class.
I'm just going to say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like it's a super chat from this dude, Blackest Panther, saying, why are you, Tim, you're logically inconsistent. Why are you more likely to be deported for burning an Israeli flag than an American flag? Yo, I don't care about your retarded obsession with Israel.
Yeah, it's not that-
Shut up, you Israel-obsessed morons.
It's about the trade
I don't
routes.
care. I don't care. Stop. I don't care if it's Ukraine. I don't care if it's Israel. I don't care if it's Afghanistan. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're from Japan. If you're from Japan, you come to this country and they start protesting and declaring that Americans should change our behavior for you, get out. I got to be honest. When I hear people defending non-citizens coming in and trying to dictate American governmental policy, they have no right to do this. And then they say, well, but it's because Israel. Okay, I get it. You're obsessed. Your brain is rotted from your skull because the only thing you think about is Israel. I care about all the countries that are trying to negatively impact the United States. We've got to deal with Venezuela sending people from their prisons. Now, I know it's semantic. They're not literally taking people out of prisons, putting them on a bus and saying, go to America. They're releasing them and saying, get out of the country, go there instead. We don't want you. And then when they come here, Donald Trump says, we want to send these Venezuelan gangs and prisoners, former prisoners, cons, and criminals back to Venezuela. They say no. So what does he do? He cuts a deal with El Salvador. These are criminals from Venezuela. You take them. We don't want them. The Democrats then say, we're going to keep them here. And then you super chat, but to Israel. This is why our country is being screwed over and mercilessly beaten. And it's why we're facing these catastrophes that we're facing. Okay, because of the myopic view of so many people. I do these debates and conversations, and they're focused on one super stupid. Let me put it this way. During Occupy Wall Street, one of the most amazing moments was when some guy stood up during the General Assembly, and he screamed out, "What is wrong with you people? The only thing we need to focus on is fracking. It is the center of all of our problems." And I thought, my God, there are people that live in bubbles. They only see one thing. That's the only thing they care about. Me, I got a bubble. I do. It's America. So if it's Venezuela, if it is Ukraine, if it is Russia, Iran, China, Israel, or otherwise, and they're negatively impacting us, I'm going to say, stop. I don't want to be involved in this. People need to focus on on the issue, and that is, we have a system of governance. We have a body politic. The American people, for hundreds of years, have built and they've planted trees whose shade they know they will not sit beneath. Blood and treasure sacrificed to make the greatest nation this world has ever seen. Over the past 30 years, our border has been porous, our manufacturing base eroded and stripped away, and now Donald Trump is doing what he thinks he can, and I say thinks because we don't know how it's going to play out, whether it be tariffs, securing the border, to try and bring back some semblance of a cohesive nation. I will just say it that way. I don't care if they're anti-Israel. I don't care if they're anti-EU, whatever it is. I don't care if they're pro-gun or anti-gun. People from foreign countries that come here as guests that want to get up in our business and dictate what we should do, I think, and depending on the severity, for sure, get out. And I'm not going to cut a special pass for all the Canadians, each and every one of them, who keep coming to the United States and then running political shows telling us what to do. With all due respect, I'll cut them some slack, okay? They're our neighbor to the north. They're directly on our border, and we have a shared culture. I understand why they're fleeing Canada, but I will say this as much as many other people have said it. You've got British people like John Oliver, and you've got a lot of Canadians, even conservatives, coming from Canada to the United States and then telling us what to do with our government. And I think there's a problem with it. So if they decide we're going to kick you out, I'm going to be like,
yeah. Well, again, I think it's very important because the only country that has this influence, and I know you say, hey, well, why Israel? Why Israel? The problem is that Israel has undue influence on our country. There's no other country where we are literally legislating criticism of them, like to deport people for criticizing it.
Agreed.
Like someone can burn an American flag on a college campus and be totally fine. But if they burn an Israeli flag, anti-Semitism, they get deported. So I think that's why people are singling out Israel, because we dictate a lot of our laws based on them. And that's the problem here. Now,
I agree.
That said,
I agree. Still,
so they have okay, fair, but they have undue influence in our political structure, and to the point where they're legislating things to their benefit that we don't even get to enjoy as Americans, but we're doing for their behalf. So with this woman, she's legally here. She wrote an op-ed against Israel, critical of Israel, and she's getting deported for that, versus if she had wrote that op-ed against the United States, she would still be here. And I think that's the problem that people have.
I completely agree there's a problem. I say criticize it fully, but that is no excuse for allowing someone to come to our country and try and dictate our foreign policy.
So I'm talking about, okay, so we've got the Middle East. Israel's our eastern bulwark, our nuclear warhead to protect the Suez. We've got Egypt in the west. We got Saudi Arabia as puppet states. If people threaten that hegemony and we lose that canal, that's what they're fighting. That's what they're trying to stop. It's similar to why I brought up the Japanese internment camps during the war. When you're in wartime, which we have been in the Ukraine, you take people, they did, I don't know the extent of what they did with the Japanese
puppet states.
Citizens.
You are correct about the Suez and the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea and all of that stuff, and I don't care.
No, I am explaining why it's happening.
No. I'm not saying I don't care about what you're saying. I'm saying I don't care about the Suez. I'm saying you are correct.
I wonder about
U.S. interests in this region, why we bomb the Houthis, is because we're so concerned about global trade, and this is why we're allied with Egypt. We're dumping billions of dollars in Egypt because we want
Jordan too. To basically pay them all this
Saudi
money
Arabia.
to play. Yeah, we basically pay all these Arab countries, especially Jordan and Egypt, to play nice with Israel. And I do think it's important. A lot of people say obsessed with Israel, obsessed with Israel. I think it's not necessarily obsessed with Israel. Rather, we have a foreign country that has an enormous amount of influence and power in our country, where we give them we roll out the red carpet for them in certain situations that we wouldn't even roll out for ourselves. And I think that's where people are having issues.
My point that I'm trying to bring up is,
And by the way, when it comes to immigration, I agree with you. I'm even further right on that. I think we need to have immigration moratorium. I think we need to stop letting people in. I think we need to keep America a certain demographic majority. I'm even further right when it comes to immigration. But my problem is that when people start to infringe on the First Amendment because of a foreign nation, that's my biggest gripe.
the liberal economic. Listen to what Donald Trump talks about. He talks about the Gilded Age. He talks about the end of the 1800s. The liberal economic order was created to police the world. And they still want to, and they're addicted to it. Even people in the Trump admin with these strikes on the Houthi rebels in Yemen, it's an addiction. It is a fear. If we do not intervene, global trade will be negatively impacted, and the global economy can be harmed by Iran, who will gain more power, and the Houthi rebels. China will get involved. They're already trying to take the lithium deposits in Afghanistan. We can't allow them to do it. We have to be in control. Why? Why do we have to be in control? Now, I'm deeply concerned about unipolar Chinese Communist Party planet. I don't want that either. But the United States was prosperous and powerful before World War II. There's a reason why the U.S. got involved in World War I and World War II. And you can argue they were bad reasons. The reason for World War I, I think, Trump brought up, like, why were we even involved? Because we have allies and we basically dragged into it to support them. World War II, relatively similar, but Pearl Harbor, we get it. The U.S. was very, very powerful before these wars, before the existence of the liberal economic order. I am confident that if we just backed off and said, we don't care about your canal and your trade, because U.S. trade doesn't go through that area, you deal with it.
But the problem
Somebody
is
would.
They got long-range bombers now. So we can't just huddle.
Who is they, though?
The Russians and the Chinese,
So what?
and the Indians and the Americans and the Israelis.
Yes.
So if you just huddle and play isolationist now, they can hit you from orbit.
No one is saying isolation. That's an excuse. What I'm saying is we don't need to be the world police.
Yeah, I agree with
there
you.
has to be
I
a
think
world
that's a big
police?
problem. That's a big issue. But see, here's the problem. Israel has forced us to almost be the world police because now we have to be involved in all these Middle Eastern affairs because of Israel to allow them to
It's not because
maintain
of
their
Israel,
support.
because Saudi Arabia, it's because of Egypt,
It's because of the
Jordan,
liberal
et cetera.
economic order. Israel's part of it, but it's this order of nations. It's the British Empire. It's all these things, the Commonwealth, whatever you want to call it, the transition of the British Empire into this new organism. It's a technocratic, militaristic hegemony, basically.
We would not have been in all the foreign wars in the Middle East had it not been for Israel.
That's a gross over exaggeration.
You don't agree?
No, I think you hyper focus on just Israel, ignoring all the other factors. I think it's fair to say that Israel is a very strong factor in our involvement in the Middle East.
There's always going to be other
100%.
factors, but they're by far the most prominent and the biggest reason why we've
Saudi
had the
Arabia
war.
is.
You think Saudi Arabia is?
Yeah, because of their control of the flow of oil. If Saudi Arabia dumps oil into the market, they destroy our economy. So the U.S. basically goes there and sucks the feet of the Saudi princes, saying, please don't flood the market with oil. Israel doesn't do that. Israel begs us for money, and then we give to them to build weapons. So if Saudi Arabia and the OPEC nations could destroy the petrodollar overnight, and so Trump and all these presidents are constantly going there and saying, please, the love of God, don't ruin our hegemony.
I think every war, like the Iraq War, was for Israel. Us going into Afghanistan, the entire war on terror was basically waged, and only Israel benefited from it. I don't think Saudi Arabia benefited as nearly
the
as
Iraq War?
from the Iraq War. Israel benefited from the Iraq War.
The Iraq War and the Afghan War are for there's obviously a bunch of reasons.
Sure.
The principal reason is we're surrounding Iran. But our involvement, our desire, I say our because it's not mine, but the U.S.'s desire to go to war with Iran is not because of Israel.
100%. It's one of the main reasons.
Israel wants us to go to war with Iran for sure.
Yeah.
But U.S. interest in going to war with Iran coincides with that.
Look,
What benefit do we get from going to war with
We
Iran?
want
Control the Suez.
Well,
No,
it's not the
it's not.
Total control of the trade route. Is what we're
Iran?
doing.
No, it's not the Suez.
Iran is a threat in the region, and we want full control of oil in the region, and we want to appease the Saudis who control a
Yeah,
large
Saudi
amount of that supply
Arabia
of
is
oil.
a major reason why we have the posture towards Iran that we do.
No, it's mostly Israel. Like,
Why?
Iran and Saudi Arabia, yes, they've had problems, of course. But
Well, it's
I would
the
say,
Shia and the Sunni stuff. You know,
that?
like it's the Shia and the Sunni beef.
yeah, but
they have.
that is not as much of the reason as
I mean,
Israel is by far the biggest
Why?
enemy to Iran. It's because Iran's the only country in the Middle East.
Why is the U.S. engaged in hostilities with Iran because of Israel?
Why? Because Iran is the only country that challenges Israel's hegemony in the Middle East because they
That-
have the ability.
Okay, now I got to pause
actually-
because that's
Sure.
circular.
Go
What
ahead.
you're saying is Israel is the reason why we're involved with Iran because Iran is a threat to Israel. That doesn't explain why Israel is dictating U.S. be involved with Iran. You're just saying that Israel is threatened by Iran. We get that.
Yes, and that
Netanyahu met with Trump, and he said we want to do joint strikes, and Trump said no.
Yes, because he understands that going to war would not benefit us whatsoever. However,
I thought Israel controls our interests, and it's why
they absolutely do. They absolutely do. But here's the thing: he's got to obviously weigh it out. Like, okay, they put me in, right? Because Myron Gaines and all the other Zionist backers, etc. They put me in. Like, I gotta appease them enough. I'm giving their 2,000-pound bombs. I'm allowing them to continue to wage war in Gaza. I'm allowing them to kind of go wild all over the Middle East, etc. But going to war with Iran might not be a good idea because they can actually hurt us economically. Now, of course, we would win the war with Iran, but Iran has the capability of making life significantly harder. They could shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They can launch missiles into Saudi Arabia and to the UAE, hurt our allies, destroy these oil locations and these strategic standpoints.
They're arming the Houthis. They're arming.
Sure.
The Iraqi insurgent groups, I forgot their name, and they're launching missiles at Americans.
Sure.
The Suez is probably one of the largest reasons. Appeasing the Saudis is a large reason. The Saudis want the Suez to flow properly because they have a lot of interest in that. Russia sends their fuel through the Black Sea, through the Bosphorus, into the Mediterranean, through the Suez to make it down into the Arabian Sea and into the Indian Ocean. So this canal is of vital interest to all of the global powers. This region.
And this is why he's rethinking war.
It is not
this is why he's
just
rethinking it.
because Israel.
No, Israel wants the war, and I'm saying a big reason why we have the issues that we have with Iran is because of Israel. That's what I'm saying. Saudi Arabia plays a part, but I would argue that Israel plays a more significant part because they've been trying to topple them and get rid of their nuclear program for decades. They've done false flags. They've done a bunch of stuff to try to get us into war. Luckily, it hasn't worked, but Israel is one of the biggest reasons why we have the posture that we have with Iran.
I think it's that's a modern.
And the reason why we're not getting into war was what I explained before, where it would economically hurt us a lot.
I do want to jump to this next story, but I just want to say I understand the point you're making.
Sure.
And I think we're largely saying like which geopolitical factor is playing a more significant role.
Sure.
What
Both of
time
which-
period do you start? Because the British mandate for Palestine.
Yes, Ian, I get it. We're moving on. Okay, I'm trying to wrap up the segment because we're talking in circles about foreign war and policy. Okay. So
we can move to the next topic.
I'm trying to respectfully say I get what you're saying.
No, we can.
Disagree.
We don't have to agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree.
Let's just jump to
It's
the
totally
next story.
cool. I think the people enjoy the conversation. That's what matters.
Right. I
Love
completely
this
agree.
stuff.
People love it.
But I just feel like we've been on for like 30
We
minutes
can
on
move
one
to the next
subject.
thing, dude.
So
yeah, we
good.
can move on, brother.
So we'll jump on to this next one, and we'll maybe talk a little bit. I don't want to just keep.
Yeah, because there's an uncensored part too, right? Call-in part on this.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Let's go to this story from the
Move
New
on.
York Times. Trump would not concede MS-13 letters were digitally added. The White House declined to explain why Trump did not appear to realize the photograph he held up on social media had been altered. This is they don't show the video. I'm actually surprised by this. That's interesting.
It's on
New
my
York
Twitter
Times
page if you want it.
is not showing the video where Trump is debating. I believe the guy's name was Terry Moran, and Trump appears to genuinely believe that the letters MS and the numbers 1 and 3 are tattooed on his hand. Terry Moran is arguing it's symbolic. Here's why the story is fascinating, and I'll pull it up in a second. I thought the New York Times would have had the video. I can't say I'm surprised they're not showing it because then you'd realize there's some nuance to this. Now that Trump appears to genuinely believe that photo he held up has MS-13 was actually part of the tattoo, and maybe he didn't. I don't know. I think Trump thought that. All of a sudden, the liberals who argued that Trump was showing an altered tattoo, they're now all of a sudden realizing, just as if they knew the whole time, that it was actually just a key representing the symbols. Terry Moran said those symbols were on the picture to show what the tattoos represent, basically. And Trump's like, no. What do you mean interpretable? No. MS-13. The liberals argued when Trump held that up, he was intentionally showing tattoos that were fake, despite the fact it was an obvious paintbrush, not even a Photoshop. Now they're acting like they knew the whole time that's what Trump was trying to do, but Trump believed it. Ha ha! That's the hypocrisy of these people. That's the idiocy or the hypocrisy. They know they're lying. But you tweeted out the video, you said?
Yeah, I tweeted out the video and the picture in reference where Trump's holding up a picture of the guy's hand. It shows the 4 symbols like the skull, the marijuana leaf, and then up above you can tell there's a superimposed MS-13 on his knuckles that obviously aren't tattooed on his knuckles.
Let me play the video for you guys. I got it.
Then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles
did say,
tattooed.
he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry. Terry.
He did not
Don't
have the
do that.
letter MS13.
It says MS13.
That was Photoshop. So let me
That
just.
was Photoshop. Terry, you
He
can't
had-
do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry.
get
But
the
you're
shot
not being
in.
very nice. He had MS13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to
Terry,
move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
And you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshop? Well,
Here we go. Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He
Fair
had
enough.
MS13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine,
No,
sir.
Terry,
I want to get to
Terry,
Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why
All right.
people no longer believe the news, because
When
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
You know,
take a look at the
but
photograph.
they're there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do
We'll take a
such a
look.
disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just
I give
say,
Trump credit.
yes, he does. and-
So there's
For doing these adversarial interviews.
No, this is great chemistry.
The Democrats never do. Like, they
No,
never.
God,
Kamala
no.
didn't even touch until the end of the campaign. Fox, I think, who'd she do? Someone at Fox, I forget.
I got to throw shade at Terry Moran.
You can.
He keeps trying to cut Trump off as part of the problem.
Yep.
I personally believe Trump did not understand that the paper he was given was showing a legend saying the marijuana leaf means M.
You can pull it up too. It's on the same post on my Twitter page. I posted a picture as the first comment below the video. If you
Yeah, they use
All
a
right, I
lot
gotta
of,
go
and
back.
that's what gang culture is. A lot of times, this is with every gang, Bloods, Crips,
said-
etc.
so-
They always
so
use
listen.
different.
Here's what I think happened.
Signs.
I think somebody in the administration took this image of his tattoos, Obrego Garcia's marijuana smiley, cross, and skull. They clearly used paintbrush, not Photoshop. It looks like paintbrushed, if you ask me. And then put the MS, the 1-3, showing that's what it represents. I think they went to Trump and said, these were the tattoos that he had, and Trump misunderstood,
Yep.
wasn't paying attention, and now genuinely believes that Trump is wrong and it is a gaffe.
Yeah, and he should
It's a mistake. No,
my
he shouldn't apologize to Terry Moran. Terry Moran, in my opinion, is the one who handled this poorly as the interviewer. Donald Trump said, "Do you want me to show you the
said
photo?"
yes. He should
have
have said
said, "Yes. Let's clear this up because I don't want people to think I'm treating you unfairly."
this is-
and it's best we get to the truth on this one.
It's a good opportunity for Trump to apologize to this guy publicly. Because first of all, they have great chemistry. They should do more interviews together. But if he apologizes, because firstly, the thing about Trump that's great is that he's real. If he makes a mistake, he admits it. At least from what I know, maybe not every time, but when he does it, people love him more. And if he grabs some humility in this, is like, I made a mistake. And I'm sorry about that.
Here's what
You
may
should
happen.
clarify because a lot of people don't understand that gangs often do this, where they use symbols to make it obvious that they're a member of a gang because they don't want to be identified by the gang units in these jails, etc. You know, it's very common. All gangs do this.
Trump may argue he was speaking figuratively. I don't believe that. I think Trump genuinely thought the MS-13 was actually on the hand. But I would not be surprised because there's going to be a lot of diehard Trumpers who are arguing Trump doesn't mean, he doesn't speak literally. Like this has been a common thing. Trump, the media takes him literally on everything.
Yeah.
Trump is saying clear as day, the marijuana means S. What are you talking about? It's clearly on his hand. And the reporter is saying, no, it wasn't. It's interpretable. And Trump could be construed as arguing interpretable. The marijuana, the smiley, the cross, and the skull is clearly MS-13.
But he's like,
But I don't believe that.
yeah,
for a
he's
second.
like, literally, there's an M, an S, a 1, and a 3. Literally, Terry, listen, there's an M on his finger. He's like blatant.
Because what Trump should have done was clarified that, look, it doesn't literally mean MS-13. It means these are the symbols, and let me explain to you why, so the American public will get it. But obviously, the Democrats are trying to say, look, he's so stupid. They put Photoshop, and he thinks it's MS-13.
Well, but I think Trump genuinely thinks the M and the literal letters are on his hand.
Oh, okay. You think that he actually it
Here's what I
doesn't
think.
understand the symbology?
Yeah,
Right now, but
symbolism.
when he did this interview, he didn't.
Symbolism, sorry.
Boondock Saints reference.
Yeah, symbolism.
Symbolism. What I think happened is Trump's a busy guy. He doesn't pay attention to the minutia.
Yeah.
When the Abrego Garcia story was happening, someone in his administration, probably an intern or an aide, made this Photoshop showing what the marijuana smiley, the cross, and the skull meant. Handed it to Trump and said, can we get a picture of this so you can show the gang tattoos? Trump looks at it briefly and goes, wow, MS-13, and walks away.
Yeah.
He then sits down, and this is, I will say it, no problem. This is a stupid gaffe on the part of the president, But I understand he's a busy guy, and
And
everybody.
he's old too. That's another thing that's important. These older guys like can't see, they don't know the difference between photos. They could barely turn on a computer or use a computer. Like
No, dude, if you want to talk about cognitive, like quality cognitive, if you're going to make fun of Joe Biden, you cannot let this guy slide on this and double down on
This
this
is not
lie.
an issue of cognition.
If he's going to pretend like he didn't know, that is like demented. Like
I
you
think you
have
should
to
clarify.
acknowledge.
That's stupid.
Well, I'm just saying,
clarify.
you call out humans for cognitive, mistakes, regardless of who
let
they
me ask
are.
you something. Do you know what I say whenever anyone asks me about anything at this company? Like
I don't know.
No, that's close. That is one of them. Okay, anybody in the room right now, when someone says like, "Hey Tim, I need to get a new microphone," what's my response?
It's been
Something
so
along the
long
lines
since
of like you delegate the authority to whoever it is.
To who?
Allison.
Allison.
So what do I
usually.
say?
See what Allison thinks.
Ask Allison.
Yeah. And then
So,
I got her 90
when
emails
someone-
queued up. I'm
when-
like, oh God,
when-
sorry, Allison.
So when someone comes to me and they're like, "Hey, we ordered those speakers. Do you know if they came?" I go, "Huh." I have no idea what you're talking about.
And this is the thing is, because it's so high profile, I would say this is a low level thing, but because it's such a high profile case, I think people would have expected that he knew exactly what he was looking at.
Here's my issue. If you want to mock Trump because he thought that crude paintbrush was real, please do so. Donald Trump, this is a gaffe. There is no reality where Trump is going to be gaffe-free. He's a human being. He tweeted Kofifi. Everybody knows. He sausaged fingers Twitter. It's funny. Trump made a mistake, okay? Mock him for his mistake. It's fine. What my issue is, when Trump initially held up that photo, we all knew what he was doing. And liberals were arguing that was a real tattoo. Let me try and say this one more time. In that photo, what did I just pull? I pulled that you had the image. I think we pulled up. When Trump held this image up right here, all of the media argued that this crude Times New Roman was a literal tattoo on his
maybe he
hand.
read that in the
but
news.
Trump had photoshopped it. They said Trump posts altered image.
I guarantee you Donald Trump does not use Photoshop.
Now that Trump made this gaffe, all the liberals came out of the woodwork and they were like, "Ha, we knew the whole time that it wasn't a real tattoo."
So I think let him laugh, and that's why Trump, if he acknowledges it, owns the mistake, and apologizes, like laugh as much as you want. He's the bigger man. That's a huge talent.
He doesn't need to apologize.
Doesn't need to, but he's going to look like a great guy if he does.
No,
Well, I do think there's also a reality where Trump says something later on. Like, look, Trump was asked by Goldberg about whether he's going to run for a third term. He said no. He was like, "Look, I know a lot of people, they chant 3 and they chant a third, but it's not something we're actually going to do." And he was like, "We're just, he's like, it's a goof, basically."
They're like throwing people off the scent. They're doing so much.
I mean, Trump did the
putting out.
Trump 2028 because it's funny and he knows people are going to buy it. It's a troll.
And maybe his
when
son will
Trump
run.
was legitimately asked by Goldberg and the Atlantic journalists, he said, no, like, very calmly said, "We're not doing that. We're not going to look at it." He's like, maybe I'd like to, but it's very hard, so I don't think it's going to happen. It's not something we're pursuing. We're not looking into it at all. In this regard, the issue is Trump made a mistake. Terry Moran, as a journalist, decided to be adversarial and argue with him instead of saying, "This is an opportunity for us to get to the truth. Why don't you pull up that photo right now and let's take a look?" Then he would have looked at it and said, "Mr. President, do you believe that M was actually on his hand?" And Trump would have said, "Yes." And then he would have said, "Can we get someone from your administration? This is an image that was created to represent what those symbols mean." That would have been tremendous for all of us. That would have been tremendous.
for the ratings and for
So
everything.
Trump made a mistake. He can own that. I got no problem saying it. Trump's made a lot of mistakes. Trump launched 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria, a much worse mistake. But the
thing is,
journalists,
I don't think he'll admit
That's
it
the
though.
thing. The guy's
Trump is
real.
very proud. I don't think he'll admit it. He's just going to let it kind of
I don't know.
continue
I don't
on.
know. Trump sometimes makes fun of himself a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about this. I don't know if he'll
Well,
say, "Oh, it was a mistake."
Hold on. Here's another reality.
issue.
Another reality is Trump is intentionally lying.
Yeah,
think
that
he's
was
intentionally
something
lying?
people said that. They're like, he's playing 9D chess. I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
he
no,
said it like
I mean-
5 times in the interview.
Look, I guarantee you, Democrats are like, "Haha, Trump thought it was real." I'll say, "No, he knew it was fake. He's lying to you." What are they going to say? "No, he's not. He's telling the truth." Oh, he's telling the truth now. There is, I believe, my personal opinion is Trump genuinely made a mistake. He thought that photo was real. It's okay. People make mistakes. It's a stupid mistake to make, but whatever. However, there is a possibility Trump is saying this because he knows there's a lot of people who aren't going to check. And then he says, "This is why people don't trust you anymore." And there are going to be a lot of Trump supporters who are like, "Yup, he literally had MS-13 in his hand and the journalist lied."
Yeah, I mean, it's which is why I think that he might not. I think he should come out and clarify, say, hey, look, this was a mistake. It was symbolism. But I don't think he will. He's just going to kind of let it die down and move on.
By the way, there
It's
were
just not a big deal.
at least
I don't
three
think he's
amazing
gonna,
clips
I don't
from this
think
interview.
he's going to feel like I don't need to clarify this.
Yo, this interview was amazing. Can we pull up the more fun stuff?
But again, I give him credit for doing these adversarial interviews because, the Democrats don't do this.
Here we go from Deadline.
Biden on Fox? Never.
Let's grab the story. We got this from Deadline. Frankly, I never heard of you. A testy Donald Trump tussles with Terry Moran during contentious ABC News interview. That was great. But then we have this. Listen to this. This is gold.
Do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across the stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC's
No,
one of-
wait. The best part. Listen to what Terry Moran says.
All right.
I knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC's one
He
of
thanked him.
Yeah.
He said thank
the
you.
worst, I have to be honest with you.
You know what?
Thanks.
That's the only
Do you
reason he
think
gave this
the
interview. Now that I think
reputation-
about it, he just want to tell them to their face, you guys are fake news and you guys suck. That's the only reason he did this interview.
Terry Moran said, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
He was like, I hate ABC. Let me get the guy that I'll have the least problems with just so I can say that you guys are fake news. You could tell. Anytime he gets a chance to make fun of Biden, which is hilarious, by the way, he takes it and then he wanted to tell ABC that they suck to their face.
Yeah. And he should.
That's the only reason he did it.
It was the right thing for Donald Trump to do. The media has been derelict in their duty they were derelict in their duty for 4 years. They covered for Joe Biden when he was incapable of doing his job. So
it's crazy because prior to Trump coming into office, like politics wasn't this interesting and fun and funny. Like I remember when before Trump came in, right? If you look at the Mitt Romney and Barack Obama debate, they were so posh, great decorum, so polite, really didn't insult each other, right? And then you go fast forward to like Trump versus Hillary and then Trump versus Biden, and he's like saying like, well, I don't know what he said, or he's saying like, I would lock her up. Like he completely, as much as people, you could hate or love Trump, what you got to admit though, is that he revolutionized politics and definitely made it more interesting and entertaining.
The biggest zing in the Obama and Romney debate was when Obama said the 1980s want their foreign policy back because Romney correctly said that Russia was a geopolitical rival. And then the biggest zinger in the Hillary Clinton Trump debate was definitely it's because you'd be in jail.
Yeah, you'd be in jail when you said about the tax breaks. Yeah.
I do want to interject a little bit. You said they were derelict in their duty. They were complicit.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Derelict is actually... I understand what you were trying to deride them, and I respect that. But derelict is a cover-up.
They were complicit, yeah.
They were complicit.
Totally true.
Joe Biden, there's this video. I got to pull it up again. It was, it's so good. It's so good. How do I find it? It's
just the way he always makes fun of him. What was that? Was that a CPAC you cooked him for like 30 minutes? Like made fun of Joe Biden for like, it's just funny. Cause like before Trump coming into politics, it was like completely a big no-no.
Yeah.
So personally insult your political rival, like it was frowned upon, right? Even if you hated each other, there was like a certain level of decorum. He completely got rid of that, and it's hilarious now.
Let me play. I'm going to play this clip for you guys. We're doing a best of. Here's a best of Joe Biden.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem no, it works. Or or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're. No, I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, right. Or, whether those aliens are here or not, who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about it?
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, dude? Like if you watch, speaking of going back in time, if you watch Biden, I think it was against Sarah Palin back in like 2008 or something like that. Completely different guy.
Yeah.
Completely, sound mind, very good, good speaker, sharp as hell. Like when you look at how he used to speak and how he used to be to now, it's like, is this even the same guy?
My theory is that Biden's planning on retiring to play poker. And so he's created this public persona of infirmity and ineptitude.
People will be pushing him all day.
He's at the table, and he's like, "Oh, what do you mean? Hey, sir, king." And then they're like, "This guy's nothing." I called.
Too late, I guess.
I guess I'm calling, and they're like, "I got you. I got trips." And he goes, "Oh, I got a full house."
Yep. Like when,
wait a minute.
You ever see the episode of The Fresh Prince where his Uncle Phil pretends he can't play pool? He's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, I'm a pool shark. Now I'll say he made the bet. It was like, oh, and you started cooking him.
All these people in the media, they were like, look, behind closed door, Joe Biden's better than he's ever been.
Yeah.
Joe Scarborough said, this version of Joe Biden is the best version he's ever been. So when we played this video for you.
See, you could believe that had you not heard him speak before. Because I'm telling you, a lot of people forget. He was vice president under Obama. He was super sharp. Now you look at him, you're like, what the hell is this?
But this is the issue. Chuck Todd recently came out and said, the narrative that the media missed this story is a right-wing manufactured narrative. It didn't happen. Chuck Todd is developmentally disabled. Because if he watched this clip and concluded that Joe Biden is of sound mind, then he's developmentally.
You want to know when it was over? When Biden debated Trump and he went on this random tangent, and then even Trump was like, I don't know what he said, but then he went on.
He said, I don't know what he said. I don't think he did either.
Yeah, I don't think he did either, which was hilarious. And honestly, that debate sealed the deal because you had both of them there. Remember, Biden went off for 2 weeks. No one knew where he was prior to that debate. Oh, yeah. They were making jokes saying he's getting the shots in his butt and everything else like that to wake him up. And he still came into that debate super unprepared, didn't know what was going on. It was a big L. And that debate is actually what ended up making him drop out. I remember 2 weeks after that, he pretty much dropped out. Kamala took over. But yeah, dude, anyone that thinks it's crazy what the mainstream media, how they covered for him.
These journalists, like the Axios guy said, we missed this story and we've lost trust because of it. It's like, if you really expect me to believe that you missed this story when we were all watching those videos.
That's the thing. There's this experiment, I think the Milgram experiment, where they'll tell people okay, they'll show you a line and then they show you 3 other lines. Which one is the same length?
I don't think that's Milgram.
That's not Milgram. That's a different experiment.
Milgram was when they electrocuted people.
Yeah, and people would just do what the authority told them to do over and over until they thought they were killing the person.
They'd keep going. Yeah.
They would keep going. So there's a line that's 3 inches, and then you got these other lines, and people, you see obviously which line is the same, but the 10 people that go before you that are all in on it will all pick a different line that's the wrong length. And then by the time it gets to the person, over and over they would pick the wrong line because that's what the group said.
Better.
It's this phenomenon.
I disagree. I think they were in on the take. But that is an interesting phenomenon you bring up. There's another experiment they did, and you can watch the videos online. It's fascinating. It was like a reality TV show. They have a person goes into a clinic, and there's a guy sitting in a chair, and there's a bunch of open chairs in the waiting room. The person goes in and sits down, and then something beeps. It goes beep, and the guy stands up and then sits down. And the person who comes in is sitting there like, whoa, what was that all about? Another person walks in and sits down. The beep goes off. They both stand up and sit down. Eventually, there's 10 people that have come into the room, and the beep goes off. They all stand up. Then they all sit down. Eventually, the person who's being experimented on starts standing up and sitting down too, just not knowing why, because the beeps are going off.
These conformity experiments. The one that I was talking about, the 3-line experiment, known as the Asch conformity experiment, ASCH, conducted by Solomon Asch in the 1950s to demonstrate the power of conformity in groups.
But these exist for a reason. You know why?
Social survival of the tribe.
Because if a fire broke out and was ripping through the trees, and then a group of 3 people on one side of the village screamed and started running, the other people would get scared and then start running too.
And if you faked it, you would just end up dying off, and people would distrust you. You'd be ostracized.
No, if you ignored the threats.
But if the people were faking the threats, they would be ostracized from the
tribe. That's
not
the factor. The factor is the reason this exists, evolutionary psychology, would be that humans tended to heed social cues to avoid disaster. Because if they did not, they would die. But that is not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is journalists were basically saying, I know he's unwell, but I'm not going to be the one to say it because I don't want to lose my job.
Yep. Yeah. And Democratic Party is in shambles. What do you guys think about it looks like AOC is going to run. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it is.
So I put out an ad, didn't she?
She'll be president within the next 20 years, but probably not 2020.
I want to shout out the
you think she'll
Piers
win?
Morgan show.
Maybe eventually.
Today I went on Piers Morgan's show, and Shri Tenadar was on it. He's the guy who's impeaching Trump. And he starts ranting about Trump.
Is it that Indian guy?
Yeah. He's like, Donald Trump is deporting a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm just sitting here like, oh my God. And then Piers was like, Tim, and I
got an accent. You shouldn't be able to run for office.
Well, I don't care about that. My point was,
Hey, I'll say it.
you can't impeach Donald Trump for doing things that are just unpopular or because his approval rating is down. And the only reason Sri Tanadar, I told this to his face over the camera, the only reason he's impeaching Trump is because the Democratic Party is in shambles. They have no front runner. It's a free-for-all.
Yep.
And there are a bunch of crabs clawing their way to the top of the bucket.
Yep.
And that's what he's doing. He's saying, pick me.
Yep, and that's 100% what's going on. They're absolutely in shambles. They don't know what's going on. I think their strongest. I think Bernie and AOC is probably their strongest card that they can play, and that's probably what they're going to run. Well, he's going to campaign alongside her.
Yeah, but
He's been
Bernie
endorsing her like crazy.
That's fine, but I think by 2028, I don't know how long. Look, with all due respect,
he's old as hell.
Right, he's past the average life expectancy, and we call this the mortality factor. Once a certain generation gets to a certain age, you can expect them to pass on.
I kind of see AOC.
I think he's endorsing her. I think he's kind of galvanizing his audience, his people, to basically get behind her.
But her support is 10%.
Yeah,
I could see
there's no front runner for the
president like in
not right now.
2030s.
But that's why he's trying to make her it.
She's like not ready. Okay, we're all developing right now. We're all getting more information. We're becoming better people, ideally, so that we could probably all four of us at this table could be president at some day if we become better people and more equipped to understand what's going on. She's the same way. I don't think she's prepared for it yet.
I would never vote for Ian because he's the kind of guy that you look at him and he tries to exude this empathetic bipartisan thing, but he's talked about wanting executions and military intervention and spreading of democracy.
The oppo on Ian would be beautiful.
He's a neocon on the inside and a neolib on the outside.
Yeah, well, I'm it's much simpler for me. We can't put a woman in office. That's just automatically disqualified. Female, no,
she can't win. I'll say this.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
And the feminists get really mad.
Yeah.
But I don't believe I believe it is possible for
she is wildly unliked.
I believe it is possible for a woman to win if she's older, but it's going to be very, very difficult. However, especially for a young woman, people 100% psychologically associate height, muscles, deep voice with leadership capabilities and qualities for obvious reasons.
Literally, if someone attacks him on the street, you want the president to be able to fight the guy off.
But these desires and these traits are literally rooted in caveman brain.
Yeah.
When humans were living in the wild, and the big strong guy was like, "Listen to me, and I'll keep you safe." We'd be like, "Okay, you're big. You can fight off the bear." AOC is short, frail, and has a high pitched voice.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it to be mean.
She should be making rice and beans in a kitchen somewhere.
She can make drinks, and she can do whatever she wants. But my point is, there's going to be a large percentage of the population, whether they intentionally realize it or not, that they're going to hear her speak and say, absolutely not. That's a reality.
She'll do better than Kamala, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
I think she'll do better than Kamala.
Skill and capability can absolutely overcome biases.
I think
I don't think she's got it.
She could. The only way I think she would win is if people were so afraid, kind of like what happened in Canada with the Mark Carney thing. People were so terrified that Trump actually wanted to take over Canada that they voted for the communist. Not that he's a communist, but they voted for the Chinese. Let's say the sympathizer to the ways of the West, so that if the America does attack, Carney's going with China. They're going to ally. So if that happened in the United States, people were so afraid of Trump. You could see maybe.
Nope.
Who do you think the Democrat front runner will be then, Tim? In your opinion, who do you think will be? Because they're in shambles. They're trying to find somebody now.
AOC.
You think it will be okay?
I mean, she's the only high-profile Democrat right now.
I think so too.
The problem is, it
has somewhat of an audience.
We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. If you look at a liberal YouTuber, Trump is 80% of their thumbnails. If you look at
100%, dude.
But if you look at Timcast IRL, Trump is 80% of our thumbnails. Why? In politics right now, Trump owns the space. However, it didn't used to be this way. There used to be various Democrats that were in the limelight. Pelosi and Schumer they're getting no attention anymore. They're out of the limelight.
Hillary
did especially. Obama especially. Jeffries has no X factor and no Q factor, which is X factor meaning no charisma and Q, no notability, no celebrity.
Yep.
They're on the Republican side. Donald Trump takes the cake clean. However, Elon Musk is there. And then you also sometimes might have Rubio pops up sometimes, not too much. Yeah. RFK Jr. pops up. Matt Gaetz might pop up, though he's out of Congress now.
Yep.
He's doing his show. There were other players with celebrity factor. The Democrats have just AOC, and it is a limited celebrity factor. It's not even that pronounced.
That's a good point, bro. Now, because here's the thing. I watch a lot of leftist creators to see their ridiculous points. That's how I even came across this whole Judge Dugan thing and how they were crying and complaining how stupid they are. But yeah, you're right. Half of it is them literally complaining about Trump or saying, look at me prove this Trump supporter wrong on tariffs. Like, that's literally all they do. They put Trump in a thumbnail and show something about MAGA being stupid, whatever it may be. Like, that's what they do. Every big left-wing political commentator. And you're right. They don't have anybody big on their side. I mean, AOC is the biggest and Bernie, but
I wonder about that. I'm going to take a look at the stories that we've got right now. So if I go to our channel,
all of them,
and I'm not gonna cover this up. I'm going to read literally our schedule for the next several segments. Here's how we do this at Timcast. At the end of every show, Kellen, one of our producers, comes in and he says, here are the unique segments from the show. I then look at the titles and either agree or say maybe change this one. And then he and the team will thumbnail up. I think Kellen does all the IRL clips. They're nodding at me, yes. And then they get scheduled for the rest of the week. We've got Ozempic causes blindness, America in a soft civil war, Facebook blocks Republican candidate, corporate press lies, Joe Biden accused of fake photo. That was a funny one. Researchers caught using AI bots to manipulate. Documents proving Abrego Garcia. These ones are published by now. Wisconsin Supreme Court suspends. These are largely news stories. These are the segments from the show. They are not the show titles. The show titles are almost always like big political story, usually related to Trump. I'm willing to bet that if I go to a liberal podcast and pull up their videos, they're not going to be news stories. They're going to be political attacks on MAGA or Trump.
100%. And here's the thing. They do that because that's really the only way they get views a lot of times, because the people are tired. Like the past 10 to 15 years, people have been really tired of this woke agenda, and like liberal content creators have not been getting as much traction. So the way they do it is they just got to insult or attack conservatives or Trump. That's how they do it.
I'm going to, again, not selective. I'm going to read directly the list from Luke Beasley. First one, watch reporter destroy Trump. Second one, psychologist explains why Trump is effed in the head. The next two are members-only bonus shows. The next one is watch Trump's face as his own fans lose it. The next one, oh shit, Trump cries. The next one, watch Trump suffer panic spiral. The next one, MAGA host laughed at her face. The next one, breaking Trump rally utter catastrophe. 2 bonus shows. It literally just says bonus show members only. Yep. The next one, Fox host panics as focus group crushes Trump. The next one, OMG Trump butt dials reporter. The next one, Levitt presser goes south. There's no news. There's
that's the reactionary.
It's just,
the next one.
Kalinske,
Trump asked
thing.
question fails. The next one. MAGA fans meet Zelensky turns against Trump. 2 bonus shows. The next one. Trump's brain suddenly powers down. The next one. Hegseth screams face off on TV. The next one. Trump was asked about her. That's all it says.
Dude, there's no political analysis or commentary. It's literally just like reacting to something that Trump did and saying, look at this bad fascism.
So this is
what they do. That's how I knew about the whole Dugan thing. I was like, these guys have it 100% wrong. And that's just one video I tuned in to to see.
So this is what we're doing wrong. Like, I just read the segments for you guys. Ozempic, the soft civil war, Facebook blocks a Republican candidate, the corporate
outrage stuff.
Corporate press lies, deport Detroit women. Joe Biden fake photo. Researchers caught the AI bots. Court docs Abrego Garcia. Like, here's how we do the show. So in the morning when I'm doing the morning show, I'm lining up all of these different stories and I'm reading everything. Then before Timcast IRL at about 7:15, I come in. I've already got a bunch of stories pulled up. We then start arranging them in ways that that largely I do it, making what I think makes sense. If we're starting with this story, these stories make sense and we'll go in this order. Sometimes we change it. I then ask the crew, what do you guys think is the big lead story of the day? Today we were like, it might be the Ukraine thing. We actually didn't get into this agreement on minerals. And then we talked about it. We're like, I don't know. Trump saying that he's like alluding to suspending habeas corpus is massive.
Yep.
We then record each segment using the news story as the launching point. And the segments that we do, I mean, sometimes they do well. A couple are over at 100,000. Some are at 50. If we just changed this and followed the liberal format, I pulled up David Pakman. You guys ready? First video. GOP down first time in 3 years. Trump crashes at rally. The next one. Trump crashes out half-empty rally. The next one. GOP down under Trump. Almost a recession. The next one. Trump melts down. The next one. Gretchen Whitmer angry about Trump. The next one. Oops, how did Trump make 200 deals if there aren't 200 countries? The next one, Trump hemorrhaging. The next one, Trump official can't deny empty shelves. The next one, Trump press secretary deranged. The next one, shock. Top Trump official can't deny. Literally every single thing is
Dude, it's
just
crazy.
I'm angry at Trump.
Yeah, dude,
We
it's
used
crazy.
to, when Biden was president, we would do a percentage.
I'm telling you, dude, I noticed this when I was going through. I was like, what the hell?
There's like a chunk of stuff we would do would have Biden in it or Kamala. We did complain about those.
My
in
name is-
power, which we're supposed to do. You're supposed to hold the people in power to the fire, their feet to the
my
fire.
God,
but
dude.
there's also this behavior of
Look at this.
reactionary where you don't offer a counterpoint. You don't offer the other reality that you want to see, and that is a fear-based mentality.
Look at this from Brian Tyler Cohen.
Oh God, that guy's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Trump. Cory Booker. Trump.
Wild, dude.
Supreme Court. Trump. These
people
Trump.
And they just cry fascism all day. Dude, I'm telling you, it's like the
Donald
same
Trump
line
royalty.
over and over. Like the immigration judge, the judge one with Dugan, like they were losing their minds over that one. And it's crazy to me how they all had the same talking points and all of them are royally fucking wrong.
All
You know what-
owe
you know
Donald
what-
Trump
Wild. They
royalties.
don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to immigration.
Here's my idea.
Wild.
I'm gonna tell Kellen from now on every segment from Timcast IRL. Like here's one that I thought was a really great story. It's really crazy. Researchers caught using AI bots to shape public opinion on Reddit. Massive. Guys, put Trump in the thumbnail, and the title should now be Trump! Exclamation point. Researchers caught using AI bots to shape public opinion. Dude, it is really disheartening.
And here's the
to
thing,
see
they're
that-
getting views because a lot of these people aren't even really Democrats a lot of times. They're just people that dislike Trump. So they know, all right, even though I'm not going to get a lot of people that even agree with my political ideology, I just know that a lot of them dislike Trump. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in the title so I can get everyone to kind of come in and watch it because they just hate Trump.
Brian Tyler Cohen is the Trump review channel. That's
Dude, that's what he
literally
is.
all he's got.
That Trump reply guys back in his first term is so
Bro,
lucrative.
all of them, dude. It's like literally they all have the same exact talking points on the left, man. Every big left-wing political commentator is saying the same shit over and over. And I caught on when I saw all their commentary on this Dugan chick. And I was like, wow, they don't really care about the truth. They just care about outrage, just saying, this is fascism, this is whatever. But they don't realize that the woman literally broke the law.
Do you think the Young Turks will do the same thing?
No. I haven't seen them cover the judge, to be honest. I have not seen
So
them.
let's go with the Young Turks, and we're going to start with Trump. Second one, Trump. The next two are members only interviews. Then you've got Charlemagne and Cenk. Then you've got Trump. Bonus episode, members only. Then pro-Israel mob. Then Congressman slams Trump. Then liberals triumph in Canada. So it does still appear to be Trump.
A lot of Trump.
It's not as bad though. It's not as bad.
Not as bad. The
as
other
bad.
half is for Netanyahu. There you go. The other half is because that's one thing me and Czech and TYT agree on is the whole Israel
Well,
thing. But like that's about it.
But I want to point this out too. I feel bad for Cenk Uygur. Obviously, he does have a lot of Trump in here. Yo, an hour ago they got 2,000 views on this. Let's go back to here we go. Where's let's pull up a Trump thing from like.
I'll give him credit because he'll sit down
45.
with conservatives. He'll at least sit down with
But
us.
look at this. He's
He
getting
will. Yeah.
like the Young Turks are
He's
getting
been here,
no,
right?
Yeah. They're getting no traffic. Look at this. Terrible polls for Trump, 6,000 views one day ago.
Telling you, dude, liberals don't like the left wing media. They don't get the same amount of views they did 10 years ago unless they talk about Trump. That's the only way.
If people like Luke Beasley and David Pacman stopped lying about Trump, then I'm sure Trump's polls would skyrocket. But if you live in David Pacman world, like did I have David Pacman pulled up? Where is it?
You didn't pull him up.
I did, but I just read it.
On your side, yeah. You didn't show it to us though.
Where are we at?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
It's literally
For
like
20 years.
yeah.
So he gets a tremendous amount of views, but like Trump challenges journalists to cognitive test in nutty interview. It's just like he has created a bubble world where if you're subscribed to his channel, literally the only things you see is the nightmare reality of Trump screaming in your face. And that's just terrifying.
Do these guys go on? Has he been here before or no?
No, the first time we asked him, he said he'd do it for $5,000. The second time we asked him, he said that he would consider it, but he's busy and he'll try to make time.
Dude, you know, that's, I think, the biggest thing. Like, conservatives most of the time will sit there and talk with a liberal if, like, the viewer, like, the, you know, audiences are comparable. But, like, I've noticed, like, they won't sit down with us. Like, they just won't. Like,
Well, let's address
the
this.
fact that he even said $5K when you have a bigger show than he does is crazy.
To be
to
fair, it
me.
was a couple years ago. Well, I mean, to be fair, like David Pakman's got 3 million subs, and some of his videos get hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah,
some don't.
It's probably worth $4,000 an hour, $5,000 an hour.
Yeah, but here's the thing: doing a live show is significantly harder than doing pre-recorded content and just talking on a mic.
What I will say is there are different universes in shows, and everybody's always trying to claim they're the biggest show. So, like Kill Tony said they're the biggest live podcast, but they're a comedy show, not really a podcast.
Yep.
And I mean, they technically are, but they're also not live. They premiere. So, but he said that. Then you've got Nelk Boys. They said they're the biggest podcast on YouTube. Everybody's trying to claim. I mean, Joe Rogan's on YouTube and he's bigger than that.
Yeah. There's not.
But what I will say is, we actually track the live metrics, and Timcast IRL is the third biggest live stream in the country, and we've consistently been for the past couple of years. It is surprising to me too because
you know why he won't come on? Because it's live.
Exactly.
When it's live, dude, what I've realized, like from meeting people, there's very few people that can actually live stream, dude. Like me, you, a couple others, but most YouTubers actually can't live stream and be able to speak and talk about things real time. Like these guys that do pre-recorded content like this, they're just not good live. And then for them to be in an adversarial environment and have to be live, it's a double win.
So here's the point I was going to make. Right now, between YouTube and Rumble, we're at about 70,000 concurrent viewers.
Yep.
And we hit between like 63, 70K, which puts us almost every day, Monday through Friday, at around third place. David Pakman, and my point is, I think that's because as I went through our list of segments that we put up.
You got 70 right now, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the numbers right around 70.
Rumble and YouTube, it's around 70.
Right now, around 70.
It's going down because we're getting, I got to go to Super Chats, but I want to make this point. So we cover all the big stories these are what's trending in the news and stories we think are big and that are important, like the AI bot stuff. And Moscow bombs Kiev. I mean, one of our segments, Moscow bombs Kiev, 73,000 views, not political. War, conflict, crisis, because I think these things are important. I think this confers to us a large live audience who knows that we're going to talk about an eclectic spattering of news, largely political. The reason why David Pakman can't come on this show, or Kyle Kalinske, is that all David Pakman does is say everything Trump does is wrong no matter what. In the isolated confines of the Pakman compound, and it's true of Luke Beasley, and it's true of Brian Tyler Cohen, the only thing they can say is, here's a selective video of Trump, and I'm going to insult him, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you were actually to bring him in here and say, let's talk about foreign policy, like you and I are going off on the Suez. I mean, we were really in the weeds on like the Caspian.
And here's the thing,
Sea.
we
Like,
disagree and we can still have a discussion. These guys can't do it, bro. That's what I've realized with a lot of these, like they just can't have disagreements and conversations and be civil. They just can't.
But
you know, Luke, I'll give him credit. He came here, like me and Andrew destroyed him and another guy. But
my point is, you come here,
Yeah.
you want to come here, and you're going to say, here's why I think this thing in the Middle East is happening this way.
Yep.
And I'll say, I think you're wrong. It's this way.
Yep.
David Pakman couldn't say anything about that. He'd be confused.
Yeah.
He'd be like, honestly, I haven't read anything about that. But if you want to know why I think Trump smells bad, I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah. A lot of them don't even care about foreign policy.
We don't care.
They don't care about foreign policy. To me, foreign policy is one of the most important things to me politically, but
I agree.
We got guys don't care.
We got to go to Rumble Rant Super Chat. Sorry to cut you off.
You brought up Toe Jam and Earl last night.
I bought the wrong one.
What's that?
I bought the wrong one. I bought part 2.
That sucked.
I know.
But I saw Wrecking Crew also. That game was
Yes.
badass as fuck.
So we're trying to get it to work. We gotta go to your chats. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. I don't know why I said that. Whatever. Just follow me anyway. Rumble.com/TimcastIRL for the uncensored call-in show, which will probably get spicy in about 15 minutes. I'm trying to go quick to get
It'll be
to
a good time.
Your chats. Yeah, I mean the green.
And I can say what I want to say.
Well,
it's gonna be even crazier.
I recommend you guys watch the Green Room podcast.
Oh yeah.
That should be up now or going up soon, and that's also at rumble.com/TimcastIRL.
Me and Tim had a great conversation on immigration and some other stuff as well. So
we'll talk more about it. Let's read some chats.
Yeah.
Shane H. Wilder says, if Trump suspends habeas corpus, the MSM will have a field day. I can hear it now. Never before has a president done such a thing. Trump is a dictator.
Yeah.
Fine, then so is Lincoln.
before.
That's why I asked people. I was sitting down with the trigonometry guys, and this was like a month ago. I don't know if they put the episode up yet, but I asked them, was Lincoln a dictator? And they're British, so they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, because that's the question. Was Lincoln a good guy or a bad guy? Because he arrested politicians. He threatened to arrest a Supreme Court justice. He sent troops to go to war. I mean, these are questions about necessity. All right, let's go. Omni Stone Herald says, I not only voted for this, I still am expecting more. Indeed. All right, J Dirt Biker says, was pretty worried today after hearing about the power outages in Europe. Cell phone networks went down in my area for hours with no info available. Thought it was go time. Thankfully not. I think it is important to point out we don't know why, when, or how. Disasters can happen. And sometimes it's rain. You know, so when I told people buy emergency food, these liberals started making fun of me. And I laughed right back like, guys, there was a flood a week ago in Texas, like this is a couple of years ago, and people were trapped in their town because the bridge was
in Houston. In Houston, yeah.
And I'm like, if you had emergency food in your house, you'd be like, we've got food in the pantry. It's probably not going to take long to fix, but I know that we're going to be more secure with food and water stored. Sometimes it rains. You know, I'm not telling people to go fight over the last can of beans with Agnes in a Walmart parking lot. I'm saying you pick up some emergency supplies. You got a first aid kit, you get some water, you get some food. But man, when go time comes, I hope people are prepared in a reasonable way. All right. Spartan Bacon says, I know you watch Apple TV. I think you would enjoy the show called Foundation if you haven't watched already. Maybe. Severance is a bad show. Well, let me clarify. Severance is a C- show. C-.
That's bad, in my opinion.
Right. I don't. But when I say bad, I don't want people to think I'm saying like it's unwatchable. I watched it. I was bored, and I watched it because I felt like I had to because everyone was talking about it. I need to know what happened. But I was frustrated and bored most of the time, and I feel the press is fake. However, Silo was really good, and I'm looking forward to the next season. Silo was pretty good.
I want to ask, but since we're in super chats, I don't want to derail too much.
Silo's about people who live in a silo. The world ended. Outside, the air is toxic. You'll die. And there's 10,000 people living in a silo.
Oh.
And so it's this big,
that's cool. Like life in a vault.
It's kind of like Fallout in some ways. Yeah. All right, let's go. Truth A says, Tim, the skull in MS-13 means calavera. Calavera is skull in Spanish, and the C is the third letter of the alphabet. Is that who speaks Spanish? You speak Spanish?
Caballero? Is that what it is?
Calavera?
But I'll take his word for it.
Callabera.
Someone said it was cranios or something. But I've heard that the C is the 3.
Collabera. I don't know.
What? Did you look up skull in Spanish? It's not hard to do.
No.
He's not even
Just try to
it.
type it phonetically.
All right, let's grab some more. What do we got? Baron Von Bolt says, Ian, have you ever tried barefoot walking? Toe shoes. Very healthy for the body. Check out Tarahumara, Tribe of Mexico, and or read the book Born to Run by Christopher McDougall.
Yeah, the Tarahumara are a tribe in Mexico that run for like 18 hours a day. They'll drink corn beer as their dietary main food, and then they just run
nonstop, right?
And they'll like wrap rubber under their feet sometimes, or they run barefoot. And they run pad first. They don't heel strike. And yes, by the way, I grounded in the
They don't heel
grass.
strike?
No, they run like on their toes, kind of on their pads. That's how they run, and that's how. I guess that's long distance runners tend to run like that. It's way easier on your legs.
You don't use your heels?
You go like front of the foot first, and then the heel comes down.
Oh,
mid strike. I was in this. Yeah. Try it. It's great. You'll find more stamina. You could work different muscles, but eventually.
Calavera is skull in Spanish.
Yes, it is. Calavera, cranio also it could be. And so I grounded today in the grass. I got out of the sauna, and it's a very different experience putting bare feet in the grass out of the sauna because I could feel like every blade.
Did you feel the energy of the earth flow through you?
I'll do Reiki, and I'll have energy come from the stars through my body as a conduit into the earth's core, and then create a channel through the core back to the stars. Yeah, and circle it around, and I'm like a part of the conduit, and I picture all these stars and the energy going out to all the stars and back through me, and just do these meditations. Always into the Earth's core. Not always, but...
All right, we got... let's grab some more. We got Korowag. It says, Alien Invasion Act is a wartime statute. The obstruction from these judges under a wartime effort can be charged with treason. It's all or nothing is what we need now. Charge the judges with treason. I disagree. It's seditious conspiracy. There's a difference. But I also think it doesn't matter. No matter what Trump does. Literally, Trump is going to be walking down the street. He's going to walk out of the White House, and he's going to go... And they're going to be like... Unconstitutional. He's defiling the White House. Get him out. And he's going to be like, what happened? He's going to go to McDonald's to buy a cheeseburger, and they're going to claim that he's putting the presidency at risk by eating unhealthy food.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, like I said, because like I can see why the need for it, but at the same time, I can see how it can impede other people's right to due process. So it's one of these situations. It's almost like a catch-22, man, because people are going to suffer under it that do need to have due process, but then there's other people that need to just get deported because we have this huge immigration problem right now.
You know what? I'm just because I got David Pakman's thing pulled up. He's really weaponized the addiction to Trump.
Yeah,
in a way that's made him a millionaire.
Dude, it's crazy.
I wonder what these people are going to do when Trump is out of office. Nobody wants a third term for Trump more than like David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen.
They would really, really be.
Dude, if Trump had lost the election, they'd be broke. Because I'm serious. Like, what would they make content on? Kamala being terrible? No. What would they make content on?
Well, I mean, look, during the Biden administration, people were still talking about Trump.
Yeah.
And if he lost, they would talk about the possibility of Trump running again. They would do it for 4 years.
I'll be honest, dude. He would have went to prison.
Well, yeah. And they would have. I'm sure that.
That's like he 100%.
You can run from prison though.
I guess you can, but
they would talk about it.
You know, it's like he would have. And I've talked about this before. I think the criminal case that caused the most problems, that I was worried the most about, was the classified document case. That's the one that they had him on dead to rights. Because as much as he might say, "Hey, look, I declassified the documents," National Defense Information (NDI), like, there's no way around that. And I've charged espionage before, so like I know it's ran broad in a way, you know, to cover military information. And the fact that they wrote a search warrant, they went to his house, they were lawfully there, they found the documents, it wasn't there in obviously held in a certain manner. Like, they would have had him on that all day, man. So that's what I was the most worried about.
No matter what happens, or like if there's a Democrat that wins the next election, if there's a Democrat administration, all that stuff is back on the table.
Yeah, I mean, he would have to. And that's an interesting thing, because I was saying to myself, what's he going to do when he's out? Like, would he preemptively pardon himself? Like, I don't know what he would do. It is hilarious, though, that he's the Attorney General for New York literally basically did the same thing that he did. And they wrote a thing to her, to the Department of Justice, because she was committing mortgage fraud, which is hilarious.
Yep.
All right. Rizzy says, you missed the point of the super chat, Tim. Why are we screening immigrant social media for anti-Semitism, but not anti-American sentiment? No one disagrees that is hypocritical, wrong, and shows a heavy bias for Israel. My point is, I don't care if you're Canadian or British either. If the Trump administration takes issue with you and considers you a threat, I would say this: then you can leave. And I will also add, I do think there's a degree of criticism to be levied at foreigners who come to the United States to do politics. And I'm friends with many of these Canadians who have done this. But I'm still going to tell them, like, isn't it funny that you're Canadian? You came here to do politics in America. How about we give a shout out to Ian Miles Chong, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I'm going to give him credit where it's due. He's really good at what he does.
Foreigner.
But he's from Malaysia. And he's never been here.
Like, he's been here once, because I actually made fun of him on it.
Okay.
I said, bro, you haven't even been here. You're like out in the Middle Asia somewhere. I think he lives in the UAE now. But yeah, he's only been here like once, like in 2014. Like, he wasn't here since Obama was in. Yeah, basically. And I was like, dude, like, what the fuck? Like, whatever.
You've got people who don't live here who do politics here. Not, to be fair, he's allowed to. Like,
sure.
Because he's not here. If he came here, I'd be like, bro, you know. But to be fair, there is a certain degree of people are allowed to come here, become residents and citizens, and engage in politics. My issue, first thing I will say is, obviously they're targeting Israel on this one. The people they're going after have criticized Israel, and they're screening for anti-Semitism. That is clear bias, obviously.
A lot of times, not even anti-Semitism. It's being critical of Israel. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I mean. Well, that critical of Israel is listed under the...
they're changing the rules.
Right. Semite is a desert person. Yeah. That's what the term means.
But just to clarify, what is it, the UHRA, I believe?
Yeah, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, IHRA. Basically, they define anti-Semitism, but here's the problem. If you go on the website, Tim, you can look at this. It literally says working definition of anti-Semitism, which means they reserve the right to change the definition at any time, dude. That's why I have such a problem with this. Like,
right. And so the U.S. said they're going to screen for anti-Semitism, but that includes denying the right of Jews to a homeland. That's considered being anti-Semitic.
They're expanding it to criticism of Israel, which, if they haven't already done that, but criticism of Israel now is considered anti-Semitism.
It also says in the definition, saying things like Jews killed Jesus is anti-Semitism.
Yeah, they're trying to ban the scripture too.
Which is literally in the Bible.
Yeah.
When Peter, I believe, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to spare getting into it, but it was Pilate, I believe, said something like, the blood is on your hands.
Oh, yeah.
In the Bible, it says that.
Pontius Pilate says it to the people.
Yep.
To which they respond, yes, the blood is on our hands and our children. They wanted, Jesus dead.
Oh, it's so horrible. I feel like it was a Roman psyop.
I'm like, but that's in the Bible. I mean, I'm not.
And here's the thing that's crazy about this, Tim.
Crowd,
like, this organization isn't an American organization. It's an international organization that is making the definition up for a root word that is used in American legislation. That's a big problem too.
I think there's going to be... so the first thing I think is there's an immediate challenge with look, there's a lot of Canadians who come to the United States to do politics.
Oh, dude, a lot of them come here. Another thing, so many Canadians come here and overstay their visas or overstay their visa waiver, and they're here legally. We have so many illegal Canadians here. It's insane. A lot of people don't know about it.
But, and so I do think, to varying degrees, I don't really care. Like, Seth Rogen's Canadian, right? I think he's Canadian.
Oh, I don't know.
A lot of them are dual citizens.
I don't really... Right. They may have become citizens.
Yeah.
I don't really care all that much about, Seth Rogen. You've got liberal and conservatives. He's Canadian. Steven Crowder. Is Steven Crowder Canadian?
I think he's a dual citizen.
Dual citizen?
Yeah.
Viva Fry came here from Canada. We like Viva.
Yeah, Viva's awesome. Love that.
I think there's a fair criticism to anybody who's a foreigner who comes here and gets involved in politics, but there's a degree of tolerance. I do think that the Trump administration is heavily biased towards Israel, and that's why they're arresting these people. It's very obvious that it's about Israel. But I do think that if the administration wants to deport any one of them, goodbye. That includes Seth Rogen. That includes Viva. And Viva's a friend, and he's a great person. But if the Trump administration said, we don't like that you came here as a guest and began running a political show, interfering with our processes, and said he was going to get out, I'd say, man, sorry.
See, I would fight for Viva because I think he should, I don't know if he's a green card holder, or I don't know his exact status, but I think, that freedom of speech is why we're the best country, man. Even if I disagree with them, I think we need to protect their ability to say what they want to say, especially when it comes to political speech.
To be fair, there's a moral line, however, in that Viva's pro-America. He's not anti-America. He wants what's better for America. So there's a moral issue, not a principle issue.
And even, I'll take it a step further, even if an Israeli came here and said, well, you know what, I hate Palestine and I think XYZ about the Palestinians, I would still fight for their right to say that, even though I dislike the state of Israel and what they're doing. I would even fight for that Israeli's ability to say that, because I think the freedom of speech is what differentiates us from all these other shitty-ass countries. I truly do think we're the best country in the world because of the First Amendment. And that's why our forefathers, traversed the Atlantic Ocean through scurvy.
Now I did call it Blackest Panther, but much due respect, he says, I appreciate the discourse, Tim. Tremendous respect. I do appreciate your chat as well.
He's one of my guys. Shout out to him.
And I appreciate your appreciation, and I'm glad that we're able to have these conversations, especially.
See, we love free speech, man.
Yeah, I just my point is America first.
I see your perspective.
America first.
There's people that are pissed off with the American war machine that are very pro-American values. And if those people get caught up and ejected because they complained about our military tactics in the Middle East, that's a big concern to me.
I don't want to be involved in the Middle East. I just get offended by it's a scale. Like I said,
your perspective is you just don't want foreigners coming in here telling us what to do, which I completely see your perspective.
But there's a moral sliding scale, right?
Okay.
And Viva Fry and I agree on most things, so I'm happy that he's here. He's helping me.
Yeah.
But I do respect the concept of you can create political conflict by allowing foreigners to come in. But at the same time, Seth Rogen's here as well, and I feel that the political impact of the liberal, view of Canadians and British people, like John Oliver's here. I don't want John Oliver to be deported because he's a scumbag and a liar or whatever.
I mean,
but maybe. All right, everybody, we're going to that uncensored show over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. So head over there.
It's going to be the best one.
Use promo code TIM10 to sign up and get $10 off your annual membership. And if you want to call into the show, that's through the Timcast Discord at timcast.com. Smash the like button, share the show, follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Myron, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, man. Check me out, guys, on Myron Gaines X on my YouTube channel and Fresh and Fit, both on Rumble and on YouTube, Myron Gaines X and Fresh and Fit. And yeah.
I'm at Ian Crossan, and if you like talking about our influence in the Middle East at all parts, check out my interview with Richard Gage tomorrow, the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. We're going to go deep into the physics of these buildings coming down. It's going to be live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Ian Crossan on YouTube. It'll be on Rumble. It'll be on X. So follow me there, Ian Crossan. I'll see you there.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can check out our new record. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, Deezer, the internet. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.